Hello, everybody, and welcome to the TARDIS Zone Talks. And we are here because the series finale of Strange New Worlds dropped a few days back, and we're all here because we've seen it. So what we're going to do is we're going to take a look back at the whole show. So from episode 1 all the way up, we're going to give you our opinions on the show, tell you why we enjoyed it, and of course we will, because we did in the last stream. We will also talk about the things that maybe need to improve and stuff like that. But it will be mostly positive because we did enjoy the show, and as I said, we will be discussing it here now with a panel. So let's bring on our guests. We have a couple of more guests to pop on. They haven't turned up yet, so we'll see what happens. But we'll bring on the two guests that we have right now in the studio waiting. And you know these people very, very well. So let's bring on our first guest. It's the one and only Problem Being.
Hello.
Hello, hello, hello. How are you today?
You?
This early evening, I should say.
Yeah, I'm sweating buckets.
Yeah, it's very warm here as well. Apparently, we're going to get another heat wave. Lee.
Yeah, I think it's going up to like 30 or something like that.
Yeah, it's madness. It is. It's madness, and then we'll get a horrible winter. Wait, you see.
Oh yeah.
Anyway, our next guest is someone that you know very well. It's the one and only Chris from Cultivated Media Incorporated, or CMI.
Oh, I like that. I hadn't thought of that. Hello, everyone. I am Chris. I used to go under a different name. I'll let you guess what that name was. It's a swear word in some circles, and we do not. It's retired, and we don't utter it anymore.
Exactly. I'm getting better at it. I let a few slips the last stream, but I'm gonna be determined.
He owes me a beer every time he does it.
Yeah. So
I discovered Jamaican ginger beer, which is non-alcoholic. If you live in Canada, President's Choice started carrying this a while ago. I am hooked on it. It's hot as hell. It burns your throat, but it's awesome.
Yeah, they sell it over here. They've been selling it here for years, mate, because we have a multicultural society over here, especially in Dublin. And there's a lot of shops, and we go into the Polish shops as well for some meats and everything like that.
Polish shops do
very good, man. I'm telling you, man. I don't just shop it like, buy Irish food now. I've kind of, because Irish are very, very. I don't know about you where yous come from. I don't know if it's the same for English people and Canadians, but we're kind of a stickler about what we eat, that sort of thing, and we don't. There's not variation, but I've seen over the years now.
Dominated by Walmart and all.
All right, well then that says it all. That says it all. We got Chris Persia in the chat. One of our he became a member. So I'm actually pretty.
Actually, Chris will know about this. Chris, President's Choice Jamaican ginger beer. It's hot as hell, but I recommend it.
Yeah, we'll see what Chris has to say.
Loblaws, your independent grocer, Value Mart. It's like one of our monopolistic grocery store companies. Everything in my country is a monopoly. It sucks. Which is why we didn't have our country was shut down for like a day and a half because our largest internet provider, which also controls the infrastructure for everything, apparently had an update that went wrong and shut down the entire fucking country. I couldn't even access my bank. We couldn't buy anything because our debit cards didn't work and nobody uses cash.
Wow.
Oh, the new normal, eh?
That's it. Right, listen, I think we should just probably get started and
we're not talking about ginger beer, we're talking about it's okay. It happens when I'm here.
Oh no, that's good. It's good. I'll just say until we see if the other guests are gonna come on.
I guess one thing I wanted to say, Noel, just in clarification for this. As many of you know, I was once as diehard a Star Trek fan as you get. You know how I was with Doctor Who up until 5 years ago? Yeah, I used to be like that with Star Trek. But unfortunately, I haven't been a diehard Star Trek fan since 2005 when Enterprise was canceled. So now for the past 17 years, I watch it nostalgically, but I haven't kept up with the lore or anything like that. So I think, like a lot of people, because we've been gone from the show for a long time, my knowledge of lore, I need to get it back. But yeah, that's where I am. It's 17 years of not really being a Trekkie has made me very, very, very rusty.
Yeah, I was gonna say that as well. Like, yeah, it's look, we know that there are loads of people out there that know this off the back of their hand, all the lore, the history,
I used
and
to.
stuff like that.
I
And
don't
as
anymore.
Chris said, he used it, and me up to a particular. I won't say I was a perfect expert, but like Chris, I knew enough, right? But it has been, and I wouldn't even mind actually. Last year, I only watched the original series again, but it's like, after a while, I just can't retain those memories. That's what it is. It's like with Strange New Worlds. I've watched it again because I forgot some of the stuff that happened, so I watched it all again. I've never done that since Star Trek Voyager.
Well, now
Yeah,
it's
I know you can slag me off. I like Star Trek Voyager, but I don't care. But that's the only show. Well, no, along with obviously the original series that I'll watch repeatedly. Right, even Next Gen, I haven't watched that repeatedly. I think over the years I've seen that show once when I was actually grown up with it, and then a few years later, I think it was actually it's only recent, about 2 or 3 years ago. I think I started watching it again. And I got bored very quick. Some of the episodes were boring as hell.
I watched TNG when I revisited Star Trek. It was usually an episode here or there of TNG or the original series. But yeah, at TNG until a certain show reared its head a couple years ago. I like TNG. TNG is now kind of in the graveyard. I've got a graveyard of sad things. But I am getting but there's a certain British show, which I won't mention, which I used to be a big fan of, which I'm not anymore. So all the brain space that was dedicated to that has been shoved to the side. So I'm looking for something else to obsess over to bring that brain space back, other than horror.
Yeah. Well, anyway, let's get into it. We'll start off with the very first episode, which is obviously Strange New Worlds. And what we'll do is we'll let Lee go first on this, because the last conversation, if you were here for the last stream, obviously Lee was in the chat, and myself and Chris were encouraging people, to check it out for themselves and to see how they feel about it. We're not going to be, we're not going to sit here and we'd always say, check it out for yourself. You shouldn't even listen. As I said, we can only give our opinions on it. It doesn't mean that you should take that opinion as gospel anyway. On both sides of the argument, on any argument. You should always check these things out for yourself. It's the only way you will know if you enjoy these shows or not. But Lee did listen to the advice, and he went off and he watched it, and I'm glad to have him here now so he can discuss it. So we'll start with the very first episode with you, Lee, Strange New Worlds. So
yeah, well,
I
watched it over 2 days, so I was quite committed to get through it. And I have to say, for all the flack it's been getting and everything, I found it very easy to watch. It felt like Trek. I'm more of a fan of the original series. I love the original team, the triumvirate. I was never really, when I was growing up, it was sort of, I say growing up, but like the late 80s and early 90s, watching TNG. Many of those episodes kind of seemed unnecessarily cerebral, very sort of sitting around having conversations a lot. It's a bit like today's TV, really. And it didn't really galvanize me like the original series did. It was much more I think the original series was much more intelligently written, to be honest. I think there were some great moments in TNG.
Yeah.
But I think the original series had more fun in it. You know, it was more colorful. It was more adventurous for me. And I think that, to me, will always be the gold standard. I
Yeah.
don't think it'll ever be remotely sort of close in any way, shape, or form. Strange New Worlds, to me, comes across very much like an homage to that original series. It's got a lot of TNG elements to it, but it for me felt the closest we've come to the original series, and it felt like that's how it should be. That like
Yeah.
it's how it should always be. I think the mistake is trying to emulate TNG, doing another TNG, you
Yeah.
know, the Voyager or another whatever, you know. And I think really you should look back to the original. And with this, obviously, it's set before the Adventures of Kirk and that crew. And obviously, you know, I can understand that there's going to be an awful lot of pushback with respect to the canon, respects to the look and the design of the ship and the bridge and the costumes and you know, the downside for me watching episode 1 was references to STD Discovery, which I was just like, my toes cold. I was like, oh, ooh, don't start off.
Yeah.
You know, I found it funny, you know, like, you know, upon pain of death, you know, they're not supposed to talk about it, and then they are sort of casually talking about, you know, Michael Bloody Burnham. Who, again, I found it hilarious though that, you know, the events of what happened in STD, you know,
Affected.
with a stunning and brave Michael Burnham caused this horrendous issue.
Yeah.
in this unit, in this timeline. And I thought, well, that's bloody typical, isn't it? You know, for all the smoke that got blown up her ass, you know, you know, caused another fucking pile of shit. People had to clean up for her. But yeah, apart from that, which was eye roll situation,
They didn't dwell on it though. That's
they didn't,
Yeah.
and I was grateful for that. And I think they only mentioned her once again,
Yeah.
like, and that was it. Keep it that way. Don't ever fucking go back there. Seriously. I like the start of this. I like the Pike in his sort of residential thing,
Yeah.
and he's kind of like, I've had enough. I've seen what's going to happen to me, and I thought that might actually be a bit of a
Negative.
not negative so much, but it because obviously we know the what happens to Pike from, you know, from the original, from the trailer, the original, the pilot episode of the original series, and the menagerie and the cage. So it kind of feels like if he hadn't known about that there would be nothing to hold him back, and he could just, you know, be on these adventures and you know. But I'm in two minds about it, because I think it also adds a certain fatality to the character, sort of tragedy to this figure, and that kind of makes it, I guess, more interesting. I still feel it kind of holds him back as well, but I don't know. I think in this opening series it tackled that reasonably well. So yeah, the first episode, the situation has been fucked. So thanks, Michael Burnham. And there's a situation where number one's been captured from her position on another ship. Don't know why she's on another ship, but she's on. I guess because he fucked off and retired. So then he's sort of coaxed out retirement. I love the scene with the admiral there, and he's you know, scared the horse, which I thought was quite amusing. And it kind of felt it felt kind of like very familiar, you know, like the like when Kirk is at home, you know, in the what's the Star Trek movie, the
Generations. It was,
Generations.
yeah, we don't talk about that movie.
I know, but it felt kind of similar to that sort of setting.
I agree.
Yeah, so it's got some nice little homages and a few Easter eggy things in there, which is nice. So then they have to go off and rescue her, and I love the scene with cock cock on the mind. Spock.
Oh, I know.
Coffee. I need more coffee. Sorry. Yeah. So he's in his shorts. He's got the this genetic thing that makes them all look like this alien race that's not spacefaring yet, to go and get her, and I thought that was quite amusing. Of course, the stunning and brave female officer was like, "No, I don't want any painkillers. Just put it in me." You know?
Yeah,
and,
but what I will say something, that the one character in this that I'm actually really surprised about is the guy that plays Spock, because he's gotten a lot of stick over the last few years. Let's be honest, with stuff that he's done for the other show that we.
I'm going to come to that. I obviously my first experience of him was watching series 2 of STD, which was the last time I ever watched it. And I just thought he's just not Spock. He's not Spock. But he really, I couldn't say it from the first episode, but definitely as the series progressed, he grew on me extensively. You know, his voice when he does the Spock voice, it's like that actually sounds almost like Nimoy. It doesn't look anything like him, obviously, but he had the voice, you know. And in one episode, he even raised the eyebrow, didn't he?
Yeah.
It went ding, which I thought was a bit cheesy, but it was amusing. But it's very in keeping with the original series, you know, those little elements and flourishes. So I like that. But then we had Lieutenant Singh. And I did not like her at all. From the first episode, I was like, oh, I can't stand this bloody. Here we go. By the end of the season, I fucking love her. You know,
that's what I mean. She grows on. She is annoying. I'm not gonna lie, right? She's annoying, and it's like as if she can't do everything.
But
she does have her flaws.
Yeah, you know? Yeah. I like that. You know, they didn't make her a Mary Sue. She's obviously covering up for a lot of pain that's gone on in the past, which gets touched on as we go along. And the other surprise to me as well was Uhura. I was very dubious about casting this woman, thinking, well, you know, she doesn't look anything like Uhura, you know, and she's quite thick with 2 C's. But she was absolutely delightful. I really enjoyed her performance, and I liked her character and being very unsure of herself. I wanted to take her a bit, but you know, just get over yourself. But no, I liked her. I liked Nurse Chapel. Fantastic. She's so infinitely watchable.
Yeah, she's a great actress too. Let's throw that out there as well. But she is actually very good, and she's easy on the eye, which helps.
Yeah, look, you know, as a gay man, I can certainly appreciate her aesthetic. She's gorgeous, and Dr. Mbenga was a great character. Love him. Solid, you know, solid core crew, and that's so fucking important in Star Trek. If you don't have that that tight crew to really bounce off of and have personality and you can bounce off of each other, there's certainly a dynamic there. I don't think it's as dynamic as it was with the original series, or certainly with some of the TNG crew, but I think the dialogue is quite snappily written. There's a lot of things that I feel are very un-Starfleet. You know, you wouldn't talk like that way to an officer.
There you go. That just goes to show you. PD put something in there, which I think harps to what you're saying about Mbenga, that she watched the entire original series before taking the role, and Mbenga is a good character.
Yeah, I heard that she researched the role.
She did.
Take note, Jodie Whittaker.
Also, can I just ask you, because you're talking about characters that you did like, right? So we have a bit of balance, right? Because there are maybe one or two characters that are probably, they could do with removing them maybe, or changing their character slightly.
Well, tell me who you think those are, and I'll tell you.
Who do you think? She walks on the bridge.
Ortega?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. What do you think of Ortega yourself?
Again,
listen, I don't think she's that bad of a character. I just don't know why she's dressing out of place. Like, she's wearing clothes of a 24th century woman, when she's on her off duty. It just seems off-putting or something.
Not even off duty. The sweatpants scene at Captain Pike's dinner. But I'm like, oh crap, here we go. One episode in.
Look, I see where you're at. I don't have a problem with her as much as I thought I would.
Right.
The main reason I think is because she's got a good personality. She's badly written in terms of that she's always a mouthy cow, and she's always given back chat to the captain, which should not happen. But I'm glad to see a Pike did put her in her place.
Yeah. Although there is an arc to that. Kind of going back from the first episode to the last episode, but it's worth mentioning, and I think these characters were rewritten like one episode in, because most of them were obviously meant to be something completely different. But by the season finale, you can kind of, we're obviously 7 years in the future, but she takes the role that was originally Styles in Balance of Terror. The sarcasm and stuff is gone, but she's still being combative. And Pike just shuts her the fuck down. I'm like, I cheered.
Finally.
That was my favorite scene in the whole series.
I was worried that Anson Mount was not going to be able to carry this series.
No, I was the thing I was sure of.
Yeah, well, I mean, from watching TNG, the way that he was written, not his performance, but the way he was written, and I thought from watching what I did watch of series 2 of STD was how undermined he was written, and I thought he was always going to be sort of the undermined captain in this. And there was one episode that really made me sort of ruin a very good episode for me. It didn't ruin it; it just left a bad feeling for me. But
the one where he's the coward and he keeps running off.
Yeah.
Where Dr. Omega, something happens and then he ends up in this fucking weird kind of timeline thing.
Episode. Very, very.
I found that funny. I found
I found it because
the opposite of what he is, and I thought it was a very good fucking kind of mirror.
His range, and I look, I liked if it was written at any other time in history, it would have been a 10 out of 10. But because it's 2022. It just felt like they were deliberately undermining it. I mean, that's just a side point. But anyway, so I mean, going back to Ortega, I think I'd be interested to see where she goes in season 2. I like the actress. I think she does a good job. Please get rid of that.
I think she is a good actress. I just want to point that out. I just have a problem with the way our character is right now.
Can we just shave that little bit of the hair where it sort of dips down and goes back up? Can we just, a straight line, please. Just please. My OCD is kicking in.
Yeah.
And then of course, when going back to Anson Mount, I can honestly, quite honestly say, straight from the off, like, I know it's going to be controversial, but I think he's one of my favorite captains.
No, I agree.
I think
that's not controversial, man.
I prefer him to just about everyone else except Kirk. I think he's right up there.
Wow. That is a big statement, because there are some will say
no. I agree with it. It's I would put Cisco in there, but One of the great captains has just been neutered, to put it mildly. So you can't look at Picard the same way again.
Exactly.
But no, I think your three best captains are Shatner's Kirk, Mount's Pike, and Cisco.
I agree with that. And I will also say that I think if they're going to do a spin-off of this as well, I think it should be a TV series based purely like starring just Anson Mount's hair.
He does have some nice hair.
He has the most amazing hair. Like
right,
that.
what we'll do, look, we're still on the 4th episode. Can I just get Chris in just to give his brief?
Yeah, I just want to wrap up and say, you know, apart from the sort of obvious political allegory that was going on in there, which is something we've seen in the Orville lately, it was like, oh god, here we go again. But it was a really good start with the ensemble performance. You know, it felt like Star Trek, and it felt like it was giving the Orville a good run for its money, actually. And I think that having watched some of the new Orville stuff, it's quite interesting to me how the Orville seems to get a free pass when it's gone more woke than this, and yet this is getting all the
stick.
I just don't understand the logic. It's illogical, Captain.
Yeah, I'd have to agree with that assessment. It is actually quite weird. But I agree with you. Great start for the show. And you know,
and then we'll have to come back about Chief Engineer Hemmer as well.
Well, when I went into it, I had no interest in this show whatsoever. I knew I said this last week, but I'll just briefly summarize. I had no interest in watching this show. I wasn't planning on covering it. I figured Mount would be good, but I figured the rest would be Discovery toilet paper garbage. Toilet paper is what we call that terrible thing that they did to that hero we all used to have, that poor Picard. But so I went into it thinking I wasn't going to watch it. And then a few people who I trust, I think it was actually Dan, Spacebook Dan, put up a tweet saying he actually liked it. I'm like, well, you know, I trust Dan's opinion, so maybe I'll check it out. So I think it was 2 episodes in. It was 2 episodes in. So I'm like, to hell with it. I'll watch Strange New Worlds, name of episode 1. And as soon as I saw it, I'm like, oh, story by Goldsman and Kurtzman. This is going to suck, which it isn't. There's no way their names are on there just because they wouldn't be creators if it wasn't, but they did not write this. When I went into, I'm like, oh, Jesus Christ. Having just seen most of Toilet Paper season 2, and the heavy-handed political bullshit that I switched off after, I think it was the 6th or 7th episode. I couldn't even finish it. I'm like, oh no, we're another allegory that isn't even really an allegory for 21st century Earth, and it's going to be one-sided. So at this point, I'm like, this is going to be awful. I want to turn it off. And then Pike gives that speech. I'm like, holy shit. This is the first time in 17 years that they've actually acknowledged that there's 2 sides to the argument. And it wasn't taking either side of the argument. It was showing, if you can't come to terms, this is what's going to happen.
Exactly.
So I'm like, that's how Star Trek looks at these things. And that's how it largely looked at it through the entire season. And even with the characters, like I think... do
you think that's stuck in his craw, like Kurtzman's craw? That line going in?
Yep. Oh, no, that's why I know they didn't write it, because they never would have written that. But I've gone back and I tortured myself and watched and rewatched Pike's first appearance. That I waited through most of the episode. His first episode on Disgracery. We call it just the STD disease. And he was playing it slightly different. He's augmented the character. And the original uniforms look god awful. I'm glad they replaced those. I forgot how stupid they looked. But it's like when you see Pike acting against people that can actually act versus the stone-faced bullshit that he was acting against on the STD of all things. You could see it, and even Ethan Peck, who I couldn't stand when I was reviewing the STD of things. I called him Imposter Spock because that wasn't Spock, but you can tell in the background, Ethan Peck actually has studied Leonard Nimoy, and he's actually playing Spock. He's got his own twist on it, but you can tell he's now playing Spock. He's not playing whatever the fuck that was on the STD of things.
Yeah.
Yeah, he is convincing. I like him as Spock.
His voice and his mannerisms and his stoicism. Yeah, it's great to watch.
Listen, he'll never be Leonard. Leonard Nimoy will always be Spock, no matter what. Right? Yeah, that'll never change. Yeah. But this is the closest, because even the Spock in the movies.
No, Peck here is much better. I think.
You know, I think he's much better than the movie Spocks that we've gotten lately.
Zachary Quinto, the one that
Zachary Quinto.
How many temper tantrums and snapping scenes does he have in those 3 movies?
Yeah, he was a bit of a bitch. Let's be honest about it.
For a non-emotional character, he was the most emotional.
He
character
was,
in all of Star
wasn't
Trek.
he? I know he was, wasn't he, man?
He was a little bitch.
I mean, when they reversed that scene in the Rathakan and it was swapped around, I was like, for God's sake. You seriously doing this? You're seriously doing this, but you've reversed it? Spock is supposed to be non-emotional. What are you doing? Yeah, man, don't get me going on that. But I will say, for the badness of that, I did like the first movie. Sorry, but I did. Right? You can crucify me all you want. I thought Star Trek 2009 was actually a decent start. It just went downhill from then. They should have just left it alone. JJ is not good at these things. You know, he does have good ideas, but that's all.
I'm going to be controversial and say I quite like the last one. It was the one that...
What, Beyond?
Yeah.
Beyond was a decent one. Yeah, it kind of went back closer to the way the original movies did.
I mean, it's not Trek, but it was too late.
Yeah, it was too late. It was like Fast and Furious. It was like Star Trek on steroids. It was like Fast and the Furious.
Well, look at the end. The nacelles. They look like they were on steroids. They were jacked up fucking nacelles. You know, it's just.
And he always had this thing of fucking having the Enterprise come through clouds or come up through the fucking water. Like, I don't know what his obsession was with that. Like, yeah, it does look great on the screen, but like, we don't want that, you fucking idiot. You know, that's not what we want. We want space battles. Bang, bang, bang. Choo, choo, choo. Anyway, this one gives us what we want. But back to, right, so that's Strange New Worlds. I
was also worried, you know, because you looked at the bridge and it was just like 99% women, you know. Well, I came a little bit less. I thought, I just thought it was going to be like, you know, men bad, women good, you know. I was really expecting it because that's what we've been given for the last 5 years.
I will say this about the first episode just briefly. For me, when I saw how damaged Captain Pike was, I was kind of like, at first, I was like, oh no, here we go again. They're doing this whole damaged man and this woman, blah blah. But they didn't. They didn't. This is what I like about it. They actually didn't. For once, and I agree with you, Lee. They have to be listening. Right? I mean, this show came about, again, just like the Phantom Menace, where, you know, Mandalorian would never came about if it wasn't for the Phantom Menace. I honestly do believe if it wasn't for Star Trek fans, we wouldn't have got this show, because he was so well received, even though Discovery, everybody hated Discovery. He was the one highlight for everybody. So it looks like they took that, listened to what fans were saying, and this is the result. And we'll bring... Lonnie in there, they've arrived, so we'll just get Lonnie's opinion briefly on the very first episode, and then we'll get straight into the second episode then, which is called Children of the Comet, and that's one I want to particularly talk about, because
we're going to call this one Sweatpants,
because but this one obviously, you know, there's as Lee had brought up, Uhura has self-doubt about being on the ship, and this is the episode where she shines. This is the episode where she shines, and there's a bit of singing as well from Spock and herself, and it's actually that was the episode to me.
Well, that's very canon, you know, because we've seen Uhura singing in the original series, and beautifully. I'm going to sample that,
and we saw them doing a duet. in the
Yeah.
TOS.
So we'll
Yeah.
start with the first episode with you, Lonnie. So very quickly, what did you think of Strange New Worlds, the very first episode?
There was a couple of interesting things that struck me. I was hoping that they would have, if they were going to involve Captain April, that they would give him some visual representation similar to Gene Roddenberry, because Captain April always had Gene Roddenberry's face glued in where he was referenced. And of course, I would love to have seen the Mark I communicator and phaser. Those are very minor gripes, but the first episode surprised me in that it didn't totally bend over and rupture canon. The first season has amazed me. So where they abused canon, they broke it. Where they didn't, they really respected it. I'll say that for them. The first episode was kind of clunky, but I think they've made up for it in putting the polish on later.
Yeah, definitely.
Fantastic. Right, we'll start with Bolstrek for the second episode, and then we'll go with Lee then after that. So Children of the Comet. Very interesting episode. So the Enterprise comes across this comet that they think is going to crash into this planet, and they're there to try find a way of trying to move the comet out of the path of the planet. And Chris says your singing was acceptable, but she's not a linguist. I can't say the word. She's a communications engineer, not a linguist. Yeah,
I just put she's a very cunning linguist.
I think she's and again with episode 2. At the beginning, I'm like, okay, we had one good episode. Then I see the beginning. I'm like, Jesus Christ, sweatpants. Here we go. Okay, you're going to be all edgy and bullshit. And then when they had, I couldn't stand Zoe Saldana's Uhura. I thought it was the most pompous, condescending, unlikable character in Star Trek history, possibly rivaling Michael Burnham. Actually, no, Burnham's still worse, but still pretty bad. So I saw this. Oh, Jesus Christ! Here we go again. But what I have to say is what they did with Uhura. There could have been an argument made for Mary Sueism, but I don't think that really applies here. She's positioned as somebody who's very gifted, and you do have people that are gifted out of there. But the reason that she's not a Mary Sue,
gifted to be there in the first place.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Well, but it's also has.
I don't know how STD crew managed to ever get through Starfleet. But anyway.
And also there's more evidence that Goldsman and Kurtzman have very little creative control here, because she has those doubts, and Spock comes out and says, well, then if you have doubts, you probably shouldn't be here and should let somebody else who actually wants to be here.
Yeah.
And I'm like, yes, if it was if this was STD, it would be probably the Uhura show, and she'd be she'd be Zoe Saldana, and probably even more unlikable, because now we're a few years later and things have gotten worse. But they didn't go in that direction. So that's, again, 2 episodes in. And I watched the first 2 back to back. I'm like, God damn it. Okay, this I'm being well, we'll see where this goes. The plot was very typical Star Trek, where something's deja vu, I think. God, this is how bad my TNG the trivia is now. Season 3, the Q episode where he becomes human. What the hell was that one called? I don't think that one was Deja Q, or maybe it was. It was Q something, but it was very similar plot. A planet is about to be destroyed by an asteroid, and there's a bunch of malarkey that goes on. But again, I think this one was a deliberate attempt to give us what we consider to be a typical Star Trek show, which again we haven't had in 17 years, and I think that was the point here. This is an episode, even though it does borrow elements from early episodes. This is like, okay, this is the Star Trek that you remember, and this is the direction we're going. So for 2 weeks in a row, it was around then I was starting to dread. I'm like, could I actually be liking this show? I think this was, and this was like right before I quit YouTube and the old name. So I'm like, am I going to have to make a video? I'm like, well, no, I don't have to make a video. I can just come and hide on Noel's channel and in my Freddy mask, and nobody knows who I am. Okay, yeah. So Deja accused you. Thanks. And here's how bad it is, Noel. I can still recite the original series from episode 1 to 79 in order, and I used to be able to do it with most of the Next Generation. I can't remember half of the TNG titles anymore, if even like a quarter of them.
Wow. Right, Lee.
Yeah, I mean this felt very Star Trek, as Chris was saying, and I thought, okay, because I'd already heard that the first episode wasn't the best. It was okay, but like then I heard about the second story and it was better, but still. Kirk's brother Sam, the obligatory dickhead, white geezer, is just a prick. It's just like standard. So I thought, here we go. And it had to be Kirk's relation, obviously, because they hate him. Well, they hate Shatner. But yeah, I mean, Ortega was just kind of like, look, I get it. It was a prank. This is like, hazing, which is a very American phenomenon, where they sort of practical jokes, pranks, crew and stuff like that. But I don't know. I like the scene in Pike's quarters. It's got a beautiful place. I could live there. I'm just looking at freeze frame of his wonderful hair. And it's a nice scene. The plot's quite simple, but it's so Star Trek. So Uhura's off on a sort of maiden voyage, really, isn't she? So she's going off on the first mission. And she's nervous, and you can put yourself in her place. You can really empathize with her. So that's well written. That you're seeing it through her eyes, really. And she's awkward. She's self-doubting. She's nervous. And I like that. She's not a Mary Sue. Yes, she's earned her way there. Yes, she is gifted. And I think that's not unreasonable. That's not unfeasible. She's a good character. She's very well played in the fact she's very understated. She's not, look at me, I'm the bestest ever, Michael Burnham, the sort of thing. She's not playing it overly emotional and
head not tilted to the side, look of condescension and superiority, and just oozes unlikability and terrible acting. Yeah,
she's incredibly likable.
Yeah,
and that is something that has been somewhat lacking in particularly in characters written who are diverse characters, let's say, because they're written to be something better than everything, and it's the best as that, and it's so patronizing. She's written as a human being, and I like that. I like that they're not blowing smoke up her ass. She's one of the crew. She's a newbie. They're treating her like a newbie, but they can see potential in her, and she kind of did put a foot in it by saying she didn't know where she wanted to be. And, people rightly pointed out that, well, there are people, I think Spock pointed out that, if you don't want to be here, there are people who do.
Yeah, but I like that because she has to kind of be told
out of it. She has to.
I think that was done intentionally, again, to subtly done by not Kurtzman and the people that are actually controlling this. I think that again, there's these little things that they've put in, which I think have been put in deliberately to, without outright saying it, distancing itself as far as it can
from the
from
other show that we
Discovery.
love.
And I think the way Uhura is positioned in this show is a direct reaction to Michael Burnham. It's like, okay, and it's done, right at episode 2. It's like, no, we're not going that way this time.
Yeah, and that's what makes her approachable, likable, almost lovable. I'd say. You can see she's developing. She's not there fully formed, and nothing. She can't go wrong. She has to work things. You can see she's trying to work things out.
Yeah.
And it's not just self-evident and presents itself and she does it and that's it. She's working stuff out, and that's really interesting to see. To actually show don't tell, right? So we're getting that.
Yeah, and then when she does lose a little bit of self-belief, Spock is in there then to kind of. He tries very hard to give her some encouragement.
Yeah, he's fucking your pep talk.
But he's brilliant the way he goes across. Because you're listening. That's not positive, Spock. For fuck's sake, come on.
Look, it's like not helping. And I like that. There's a little bit of humor there, and Star Trek does need to have that kind of humor. And look, Star Trek's always had this sort of very sort of informal approach to the captain and crew. It has been like the 22nd and 23rd centuries. They're clearly much more relaxed in their approach to authority. I think they do take a bit too much license with it in some episodes, but here, it's fair enough. So yeah, you got this situation, and you got Sam being a dick, and he activates this space egg thing that lights up, and they're trying to work it out, and she's working out that it's responding to her nervous tick, which is singing. She's sort of singing to, which is established earlier on, which is important. So they've thought this through, which is good, and we have to commend them for seeming to hire writers who actually seem to know how to write, which is, a big thing these days. Suddenly,
yeah.
So yeah, Sam gets his arse handed to him because he's a dickhead, obviously, because he's a straight white male. He has to be put in his place.
In fairness, he might be a bit of a dickhead, but I like and again, I will say this: we haven't seen a lot of Sam, but when
he's different in this episode than he is later on. Right?
Yeah, but I actually like that about him. I like the edge. I like his character. I like the fact that he is a bit of a dickhead.
And this is the problem with 2020isms versus pre-2020isms. Sam, and I think I remember. God, it's been years since I read any of the books, but I think in several of the books he's portrayed as a complete asshat too, because all we ever saw of him on actual Star Trek was like William Shatner wearing a mustache trying to pretend he's dead. But no, I actually like
that dodgy mustache.
He's a complete asshat, and he's like, so what can you tell me about Jim? Jim's a pain in the ass.
Yeah. So if Jim's a pain in the ass, you're a pain in the ass. So if Jim's a pain in the ass, holy shit, do you know what I mean? But I like him. And I do want to see more of his character. But I do like him. I think you need that. And if as Chris has said, if that's the way he is in the books, well then, I've no problem with that. I just hope he gets more screen time though. He didn't get enough in the first season. That'd be me only gripe about that character.
Yeah, he sort of became very incidental. We didn't see him really until till the last episode. So he was just kind of banging on his ass, and that's really it, isn't it?
Yeah.
So anyway, we got these aliens who are sort of protecting this comet. I mean, if the comet's going to do what it's going to do, and it's fate, and why does it need protecting? I don't understand that. So it just seemed to be
they're not. Well, they're protecting it from people, but at the same time, they're following it because it's a holy.
I know it's kind of like, well, this is our tradition, this is our culture, and all the rest of it. So I mean, there was a bit of allegory going on there.
And it's still, and yeah, the whole point of the episode though as well was Pike was very dismissive of it at first, and your man, the alien, was telling him like, do you have faith? Do you believe in stuff? And
well, I mean, the whole thing is
the
the whole season is based around fate, isn't it? Really, I mean, that's because Pike is tackling his mortality and his knowing his fate. And this is kind of something that he can relate to, so it's quite an interesting situation. I mean, it's helping him in a way to sort of put into perspective what's happening in his own reality. So he's coming across this and he's challenging that fate. That's the thing, isn't it? Going along with the fate, fighting the fate, and this is the whole sort of crux of the series, which is a nice little arc there.
Yeah. On comics, do you want to add on about the second episode? And just jump in when there's a gap. Just jump in whenever you feel free. Yeah.
Oh, I'm quite happy. One of the things that I noticed at the end of the episode, I kept having this feeling in the back of my mind. This is like Paradise Syndrome. But then at the end of the episode, when the comet breaks apart and it shears off as two identical asteroids, or the comet and the asteroid, one of those pieces, well, both of those pieces are very, very similar to the remastered rock in Paradise Syndrome. And the story is a lot the same and has some it has some similarities. Uhura's voice and Scotty's voice being the triggering mechanism in that case.
Spock, not Scotty.
What wasn't it Scotty that called in over the
I thought we were talking about this episode.
No, in Paradise Syndrome.
Sorry.
Yeah. So there may be a trilogy set up here.
Yeah.
That finishes in the original series. I like Sam in that I hated Sam when I first saw him because he's a clunky moron. He is an out of place Spock in this wheel. He's the characters on this show are 3-dimensional, and it does take 2 episodes to see that it's happening. And this is where I saw it, that hey, all these characters have depth. They are written as real people, and they're very enjoyable. I didn't expect that. I did not. I wouldn't have even started in if 3 episodes in, Rabbi wasn't just making a spectacle of himself about it. But and I have to concede, Spock's fiance is not that hot. I mean, she's got some puffy in those cheeks.
Holy shit, man. The first time I seen Spock's missus, I was like, whoa.
Dudes, do some Googling of Spock's mother.
Which one?
New Spock.
New Spock's mother?
Discovery, Strange New World, Spock's mother.
Who played his mother?
Oh God, what was her name again? She's played a slutty-ish individual. Her name was God. Why is it not? I've got the Spock's mother, STD, and no. Well, I know it's Amanda Grayson. I want the act. Oh God damn it, Google, you suck. Spock mother. I know. God damn it.
Was it Discovery?
Yeah, STD. Spock. Spock's mother.
Oh dear! What a
Chris.
Mia Kirshner.
Yes. Kirshner. Yeah. Do some Googling.
Oh, is it going to throw out some X-rated material or something?
Oh, for
okay.
God's sake, hold on, I'll check it out.
Oh, no, I mentioned X-rated. Is it? I'll check it out.
Well, I might as well. Oh, she's a Canadian actress. Okay.
I will admit she is she is rather attractive.
Well, she's easy on the eye. Yeah.
Holy moly! Yes, she is.
Yeah, she's yeah. She probably Spock's mother, you say?
Yes,
Okay, well,
that's
we
Spock.
better.
That's
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
Spock's mother.
Lots of
Wow.
other ads.
Well, that's probably the most human
Spock's
aspect.
mother is hotter than his fiance.
Mm.
Yeah, well, yeah, but there's
Yeah.
something about
Google
Spock's
her
missus
and
in
not
this new
another
one.
teen movie.
Ooh. Glad my wife's not here.
Right, episode 3. While everybody is, it
Bazinga!
actually doesn't say the name of episode 3 on here. That's weird.
Ghost of Illyria.
Yes.
Right, it's the Ghost of what?
Illyria.
Oh, that's the one. That's the one. So anyway, yeah, just to give everybody a brief rundown of this episode. So where hold on. Oh, I just pressed the wrong thing, didn't I? No, I didn't. Okay. Sorry there. I thought I screwed up. So yeah, the US Enterprise encounters a contagion that ravages the ship. One by one, the entire crew is incapacitated except for number 1. So yeah, this is an interesting episode. Who wants to tackle this one?
I think it's on comics go next, isn't it? To go first.
Yeah, if you want to tackle the
This
next
is
episode.
definitely our what is she? Our security chief's big episode to she gets to was it the security chief or was it the other one with the haircut?
No, it's the security chief. Singh.
Singh, thank you. She is. This is her episode to carry the
Shine.
umbrella a little bit and really brings out her. Um, she's got a deeply emotional role, but she keeps it behind this very restrained but very thin veneer. And that's something that really fleshes her personally out.
Yeah, humanized. Yeah.
Yes, as she has been exposed to the Gorn / aliens who can't possibly evolve in 7 years and have space flight being alpha hunting. Anyway, that's the only flaw in this season that I can't get past. The Gorn can't evolve into a spacefaring civilization.
I actually, but I love that later episode. I have to say, the one that's all kind of a homage, which we will get to, because I will defend it a little bit, But go on anyway. Go ahead.
I enjoy this take on the Gorn. I fault it in that if the Gorn were this powerful, this aggressive, Captain Kirk could have never won the fight. So that may mean that we're going to see, I think we're going to see genetic manipulation of the Gorn.
That would explain it, wouldn't
Yeah,
it?
that could explain it.
Just to knit things together with her being the focal point in this episode. Just saying. Let's see. Beyond that, I really love the. Again, we see a little more with Uhura. We see a little. Did we see Himmler at all in this?
Himmler. Different show, mate.
Yeah, I was doing some reading earlier. Do we actually see him in this episode? He's kind of like in every other episode.
Who?
Himmer.
I don't think he is in this episode.
No, he is. He is a little bit. He is a little bit like at the beginning, I think. Because he gets infected kind of last, doesn't he? With the attraction to light, and yeah, because then
I'm gonna have to step away for a sec. I got a little puppy that needs to go for a tinkle.
Sure.
I'll be back.
Because he's the one who tries to materialize and onto the transporter to the part of the core of the star or the planet or something, isn't it? Like, and he tries to bring it on board so he can touch it, because they're all become. They need to touch light, and it's really freaky. It's a bit weird, but again, that's the best of Star Trek when you get really weird science fiction kind of ideas. I thought it was interesting. I never would have in a million years come up with the concept of being addicted to light. That's clever,
that's
different,
and defeats the biofilter. In that sense, it's brilliant. The thing that the quibble I have, and this is minor and huge at the same time. If you are simulating a sun, doesn't that melt the furniture? Just asking.
Yeah. There are some. I don't know. You could come up with some sci-fi thing where it's in a field of something, and it's not fully there, or because I think when he's bringing in part of the mantle of, is it the mantle of the core of the planet or something? It's not fully materialized onto the transporter, so it's kind of he's trying to get it there, and he's just so he can touch it, and then he
stopped. I was talking about the hologram, but
the hologram. Yeah, I can't remember that bit, but
it didn't make complete sense. That's the one where Uhura was in the bunk and opened the bunk, and it was staggering.
Oh yeah.
Of the hologram. Well, if it's that hot,
maybe the blast shields or something. I don't know. Look, you got a point. Look, I mean, it's never going to be perfect.
Right.
There's always going to be flaws, and but if we're going to compare this to STD, this is night and day, isn't it? It's night and day.
From the Discovery Studio, I'm giving them passes.
Yeah, exactly. Look, I think because we have to look. We've been kicked to the post, kicked to the curb and all sorts through the last few years. This feels like they're actually trying to give a shit. This feels like almost an apology. This feels like
they care. They care. That's the biggest thing for me that comes out of this.
It feels like they are trying. They're actually trying, and I would think it would be on us to give them that and to acknowledge that. I think if we allow ourselves to nitpick to the point of obsession, we're not serving ourselves, because if we go back to these guys and go, well, that wasn't right because Dad didn't do that right. What's the point in trying anymore?
Well, then they won't give a crap, and then they'll just revert back to the old ways. I mean,
you have to give praise. You have to give praise when it's warranted. And I believe,
and you have to give them some creative license as well. You know what I mean? I think that's the big main thing that we miss here nowadays. I think that people are just such a stickler about things being the exact same way and done a certain way that there's no room for any leeway or creative, I don't even know. Expression, that's the word. Thank you. So do you know what I mean? So
you can't make this series like it was in the 1960s. I mean, you could. I mean, you could, but then it would become a pastiche, you know, and it would look clunky, you know, with the old style sets and everything. Look, you have to
modernize it.
You have it has to be in modern canon, in terms of it looking like it's in the same universe as everything else. Yeah. Whether you like that or not, it has to be up there. The thing is, you know, you don't have to see it in terms of, well, this has to be canon in terms of its look and aesthetic and everything. I think it's paying homage to the original ship and the original deck, but at the same bridge. But I think you have to. Yeah, you have to be able to suspend disbelief. You have to almost revisit and imprint on the original series, if that was made today, what that would look like. You have to kind of think in terms of that, or put it in its own universe. Look, the canon is something I think we've come to learn today, that we can't rely necessarily on the studios to present us the canon. We have to define what that canon is in our own minds, because ultimately it's a very personal decision. You know,
the things that I am critical of are as if I'm watching Star Trek, as I was in the days of TNG. By the time we got to Voyager, I was howling critical, but when I only am critical, but I am falling way back from nitpicking because I know I can do it. And these guys do get a pass from me. I keep coming back every episode. I'm blown away by the visuals. I am very satisfied by the writing. The clunky bits, you have to think about it to see the clunky.
Well, I think you have to also think in terms of looking at Star Trek with rose-colored glasses. You know, I mean, there are a lot of clunky episodes in TNG, a lot of clunky episodes in the original series.
The original had plenty
Spock's brain. Come on, guys! Series 3 wasn't the greatest.
78 episodes.
Exactly. Look, I don't think we would love Star Trek if it wasn't clunky. We wouldn't love things like Doctor Who if it wasn't clunky.
Yeah.
It's the clunkiness in a way that humanizes its flaws, that we can accept it, because we ourselves are flawed. You know, if we expect perfection, we're kind of setting ourselves up for a fall, because we're not living in a perfect world. The Star Trek universe might give the impression that it's a perfect utopian society, but it's got its problems. And also the problems are inherent within the flaws of our own characters. And in story terms as well, you know, the stories, like everything you see on television, you could almost argue is a presentation of a flawed witness. You know, like it's a narrative, it's an unreliable narration. So you kind of have to sort of project your 21st century brain into the 22nd and 23rd centuries and go, well, you know, how would we know? How would we know how things really work? You know, I mean, we can sit there in our armchairs and, you know, define the world of Star Trek in the terms of the canon and you know, absorb all the manuals and absorb all the technical stuff and all the canon and all the lore and everything, which is uber important, absolutely. But ultimately, it has to be a personal attachment to what's going on. And it's between you and your nervous system, really, isn't it?
Right.
What you absorb into your mind, into your body, is a very personal experience. And not everyone is going to share the same vision of it as you, same as the writers, same as the actors, and so on and so forth, and the set designers and so on. No one's going to fully 100% agree on everything. That's unrealistic. So you have to kind of siphon off the elements that work for you and kind of push aside the bits that don't, in order for your own headcanon to sort of manipulate it the way that you can take it into yourself. As you can absorb it, and if you find enjoyment in it, that's great. If you don't like it, not saying you're wrong,
No, you're entitled to have your opinion on the show.
Sometimes you have to question your own standards a little bit too, because sometimes you might think, look, I think we know when something is bad, and I think there is an element of having a prejudice and prejudging this series is going to be like STD was, which was fucking travesty. And I went in there. I mean, when I first heard about it, I thought, well, this is just going to be a continuation of this. It's just going to be awful. And right up until it aired, I think people were genuinely very cynical. And I don't blame people for that. We've been maltreated for a long time.
So it is understandable.
Yeah, but I think we've come to... I was pleasantly surprised. And I have to be honest about that. And I think there's going to be a lot of people who are just going to say it's awful regardless, right? They're going to find fault in absolutely everything. And it's never going to live up to their notions of Star Trek they grew up with. And we all grew up with that. And we all understand that. But I think some people are in trouble of just rubbishing it for the sake of rubbishing it. But I find it curious that those who've been championing the Orville, as have I, have remained silent on the Orville, or have been praising the Orville when it's clearly doing the inverse of what it used to do, and sort of almost becoming more like STD now. Yeah. and Strange New Worlds is becoming more like the Orville was.
It is,
and that it's interesting to me, because it seems people haven't put the brakes on and stopped to think about it for a second. And it's like they're just going on automatic pilot. Well, Orville good, Star Trek bad. And I have to say, I've been watching the Orville season
from day
3.
one.
I've been watching from day one. I've been watching the season 3, and I haven't enjoyed it as much as the last 2 series at all. I mean, there are some great elements. It's some great stuff in there, absolutely. But it's, I think, an hour long, and I think these are an hour long, aren't they? But it doesn't feel like it. But the Orville feels like it's dragging a lot, and there's a lot more on the nose political allegory, which this has been a bit more subtle with, I think. And it's quite interesting that the arguments made against Star Trek, I can now apply to the Orville and vice versa. But it's funny how some people aren't doing that now. It's almost as if they've kind of put themselves into a particular camp and they can't be seen to leave that camp now. And I think that's disingenuous. I'm not saying everyone's disingenuous about this, but I have to question or put them on the spot and shine the light on them and say, well, hold on a minute. How can you sort of stand by what the Orville's currently doing and what Star Trek is doing here? Because it seems to me like the roles have almost sort of flipped. But the people who've been criticizing Star Trek, and rightly so, by the way, until now, I'd say, and praising the Orville season 3. And digging this, going against this, it doesn't seem to warrant. I question that. I have to question that, because it doesn't seem to me that kind of criticism level that Strange New Worlds. I think that criticism is best served at the Orville currently. If you see, what I mean.
I agree. But listen, We've got 45 minutes left. Remember, Ballstreck's here. Oh, Chris, I said it. Jeez, I own the beer
again.
Because we're only on episode 3, so let's move it along.
Yeah, but the most important part of this is the setting up of number 1's character here of being Illyrian genetically modified, and that's not allowed on Starfleet. So there's a lot of and the other issue as well is with Mbenga's daughter being held in a sort of transporter stasis, isn't she? She's sort of floating around.
Yeah, she is. Yeah, but I can understand that though. Like,
yeah, at first I was like, "Oh my
but
god!"
it is an abuse. But it is an abuse
He'd be putting the brig. He'd be putting the bloody brig. But
yeah, I agree. It is an abuse of power. I'm not going to say it isn't.
What
it
did
is.
I miss?
We're talking about Ibenga putting his daughter in the transporter.
I think it was a brilliant plot point.
It is. But my initial response was, "Oh my god, he's been let off." But like, look, in the 22nd century, is it 22nd, 23rd?
It's 23rd. It's 7 years before Kirk.
Okay, got it. So like, to me, it's like, look, ethics and morality would be different then anyway. So, and I get it. And number one's got her own secret, right?
Well, that's what this episode's about. It's about moral questions, which is Star Trek.
Exactly. So again, you can forgive that because you have to kind of take off your 21st century glasses.
Yeah.
And I think the whole thing with Mbenga's daughter is absolutely beautiful. And I was worried how this was going to resolve.
Handled it well.
Yeah, but again, the writing on this, the writers team on this series have really thought this through, and thought it through in a very Star Trek way, and I appreciate that, and I think it's incumbent upon as many of the Trek fans who can get on board with this. And I'm not saying everyone should or has to, or whatever. I'm not here to dictate. I'm just putting my point across. We should praise them where they get it right, and we should always hold their feet to the flames. But at the same time, we have to be a little bit forgiving because I can see that they are trying, and I appreciate that. And I think there's nothing wrong in showing appreciation to people.
That really is all we asked.
Exactly.
Here's a question, please, because I'm seeing it in the chat. Someone said it to me on Twitter, and I have to ask the panel this, right? So this show, one of the criticisms that I've seen in the chat, it's a legitimate criticism, I will say, to a certain extent, okay? But I want to ask you, panel. So Darren is like in the chat, and he's like saying, well, it connects to STD, so that's why he has a problem with it, which is nothing wrong with that, because we all hate STD as well.
I don't know. I don't think that's what you're saying. I think wait. Let me just say just one thing.
Do I need to bring out the polka music?
Yeah, bring it out. One thing. I don't think that's what he said. I think it's because it's set in that unit because it's been referenced, right? Because he's okay with watching it because he's managed to dissect it from the main lore of the show. That he can still enjoy it. It's not that he doesn't like it because it's connected, but he can enjoy it because it's not in canon to his head canon. So that's what I think he means.
So the question I was going to ask was if this show had been the first Star Trek show that they actually had produced,
it would be
and showed
different.
Instead of the shit that we got, and this was actually the first show, do you think this show would have the criticisms that it actually does have?
No way. No. Absolutely no way.
This show is forever hamstrung because of the fact that it follows STD and toilet paper. And unfortunately, it's forever connected to STD, even though it's obviously doing everything it can to distance itself from that.
Can it distance itself is another question I'd ask. Do you think it can over the next couple of seasons? Do you connect things?
Don't mention it. Just I'll compare it to a British show I used to watch that I've disowned. But the way they handled one thing where it was revealed in 1996 that this character on the show that I've disowned was half human. They never mentioned it again. Do it like that, and and if you want to explain it, well, they're under threat of dirty looks if they mention it or whatever it is. So just don't mention it. Never mention Michael Burnham again. Don't mention Discovery. That never happened.
Yeah, that was the biggest mistake of this entire series, was bringing any mention of STD into this. That was the worst thing they could have done.
But do you think that might have been forced upon these writers? Obviously, it shows that these guys wanted to do something different because it looks different.
There's a war going on behind the scenes, and I don't think we even know the names of who's actually running this. But keep in mind, this was under production, or I think still under production, when the CBS Viacom Paramount remerger happened, and there was a push to save the franchise from its destruction, and there's contracts and everything else. The 25% different thing isn't into play anymore because the rights are all in one place again. But I think they're stuck because they're stuck with Kurtzman and Goldsman because of contracts. I think they're executive producers on this show, and I've said it before, in name only. This is, and this show is doing everything it can. It's going out of its way to show that this is not STD, and they're doing it subtly. But with each episode, there's a theme that's brought in that would have been handled completely differently on STD, and I think you can find that in literally each one of these 10 episodes. So they're doing it without actually doing it, but I think going forward, don't ever mention STD again.
Ever.
I don't know. Make it like the end of one of those shows where at the end it's all a dream.
Or they had their
STD
minds
was
right
Pike's
erased.
nightmare.
Yeah.
Pike and Spock mind melded and shared a nightmare, and that nightmare was STD. Just write it out that way. I'd be perfectly happy with it. And make some kind of alternate timeline where toilet paper never happens.
Let's get on to Memento Mori, because
let's go. I'll tell you what, we'll do 2 episodes each because we do, because we're getting close to near, because we said 2 hours, didn't we? And we've got about 35 minutes or so left. So let's go to the next one, which is Memento.
Mori, it was good. Now let's go on.
And what's episode? Because again, I've googled it, but it's just saying episode 5 here. So Lee, what's episode 5 called?
Memento Mori. This is the one where we're reintroduced to the Gorn.
No, Memento Mori's episode 4.
Yeah, no, episode 5 is Spock Amok.
Oh, that's the one. Yeah.
Right. That's the one that the first time they bring back original series theme music, which they've done twice.
Cool.
Right, who wants to start off with those 2 episodes first? I suppose, Lee, go on, but keep it brief because we have to do the other.
No, don't ask me.
Are you sure? All right, then we'll leave Lee for a few minutes because Lee is Lee does Lee. On comics, you go ahead, knock yourself out.
Okay, and we're doing 4 and 5.
Yeah. You can talk about the 2 of them. Yeah, go.
Okay, so 4 is when the Gorn are introduced again, right?
Yeah.
So,
well, you kind of really spoke about that one, haven't you? You've already kind of given a few points.
Really, my impressions really are consistent on that from a character level, from the creepy suspense episode. They did that so well.
It reminded me of Battlestar Galactica a bit.
Yeah. Still haven't seen it.
Oh, what?
Dude, we've been having this discussion for years. I keep meaning to see it.
What? The new Battlestar Galactica?
Either of them.
Wow.
You've never seen the original. Now listen, I can even say the original show.
How many times you 2 have yelled at me over this?
Wow.
In fairness, if you haven't seen the original show, that's like my wife.
I probably blotted it out from my
Future
memory.
franchise. What you at? Where have you been living? Have you been living under a rock or something?
Dude, at least once a year, you guys tell me off for the fact.
Yeah,
that
but maybe we just
and I keep saying I'm going to watch it.
We can't handle that. So we blot it out from our memory. Like, how could it's not possible?
I watched the original. I haven't watched the latest one.
I actually rewatched the original, not the original, the remake 2-part miniseries, the original 2-part miniseries of the reboot with Jack recently, and oh god, it's so good. It's so good. You have to watch it, man. You have to watch it.
Well, I'm actually watching Knight Rider and Airwolf at the moment. I'm alternating. I'm alternating between 2 episodes. So I'll watch 2 episodes of Knight Rider, and then I'll switch over and watch 2 episodes of Airwolf, and I've been doing that. Yeah. Galactica 1980 never happened. There is no such thing. We don't say anything about that. But listen, as Chris has never seen it, so yeah, that's like Cheryl says to me, she's never seen the Back to the Future trilogy.
We'll
like
have the same
so,
discussion
I mean,
in 2023. You'll be yelling at me again in 2024. Maybe by 2025, I will finally have gotten around to watching it.
Fucking watch it, will you? There's nothing to stop you just bloody watching it. Watch it.
Yeah, what on an all episode?
I gotta watch Baby Oopsie.
Whatever that is.
Anyway.
Anyway.
I will share this on Twitter later, but it's the most ridiculous trailer and the most ridiculous Blu-ray cover I've ever seen. You'll see it later tonight, and I'm watching it tonight, and I'm hoping this is as batshit as sane. It's called Baby Oopsie, and the tagline is "Bad Baby, Very Bad Baby."
Wow.
Baby Oopsie's not nice, and Baby Oopsie has a bit of a potty mouth.
Right, let's just keep continuing on the other episodes anyway. So episode 5, it doesn't give me that's a Spock and Muck, isn't it? So lines are drawn that are sidetracked challenge after several all-star teams turn up the target for their biggest competition. 2 players are shocked to find themselves in everybody's radar when a notorious veteran accuses them of being more than just allies. And episode 6, again, no name. This is stupid. Google literally, right, has named some of them. And I don't have the names of the other ones here.
Look it up on Wikipedia. It's actually much better.
Yeah.
Lift us where suffering cannot reach.
Right, go ahead. Whoever wants to just bail in there and talk about, go ahead.
Well, Memento Mori, fantastic. Real sort of mystery with the Gorn, which kind of left people going, well, are we going to see them? No, okay. But yeah, some nice sort of war tactics going on there, some high stakes stuff. Kind of more of a sort of statistical war gaming. Well, not a game, but it's like a real. And we delve into seeing Lieutenant Singh's background is with her experience with the Gorn, and it's a good little character sort of thing there. Fucking shit about black holes. I'm sick to death of fucking black holes in science fiction. Can we come up with something new, please? Thank you. I'm tired of that shit. Spock and Mock. Is this the one where they swap places?
Yeah.
So Spock and his missus swap places in a mind meld thing, a ceremony. Because he's having sort of issues.
Well, he wants her to because he wants her to understand his human side, because Spock is actually having doubts here about himself as well, which I like.
And he's worried that she doesn't appreciate him because he's half human. So yeah, she's a racist bitch. They
try this mind meld thing, and it goes all wrong, and then
it's really funny.
Hilarious.
This one could have so easily gone off the rails.
Yeah.
Then you get the annoying, evil, irritating white male Vulcan who's like completely fucking humans, scumbags, racist scumbag. Obviously, so we get that, and that's really good. It's really nice. You get that character play the sort of sowing the seeds of Spock's relationship with Nurse Chapel as well, which is really nice. I love Nurse Chapel; she's really good.
Yes.
So yeah, so that's really nice. So that goes on, and shit happens, and then we move on to episode 6, where it's Lift Us Where Suffering.
Hold on, does the other lads want to talk about the last episode, you lunatic?
I thought we were doing 3 episodes in a go. Okay.
Right, so Ballstreck, what would you like to say about
Memento Mori? This was actually the episode that made even Dave Cullen admit he likes this show. They're at least trying, unlike STD, to keep it in canon by not showing the Gorn. I think it was a good sort of like wacky combat, not wacky, typical Star Trek combat episode. Spock Amok, I thought, was when the show was going to go off the rails. Although I kind of thought that with each episode going in for the first half. And it didn't. I actually kind of liked the mind swap thing because I think they did it in a way that it was funny, but it wasn't over the top and ridiculous.
It was the right side.
Makes sense.
Yeah,
and I love the opening scene where they recreate and modernize the set from Amok Time from the original series, and then as soon as they brought back for the first time like one of those classic original series scores, I thought it was awesome. So I liked it.
Ethan Peck plays both the part of Spock and Kirk in that.
Yeah, and you know what? He really, really came into his own as Spock.
Yeah.
This was the episode where you really, really felt Spock vibes. You know, that was it. That was the moment he cemented himself in the role, I think.
I saw him as an actor for the first time.
Yeah. Well done.
Right, Lee, go on. Talk about the next one.
Yeah, this one was a really interesting one. This one was, again, very Trekky. So you got Pike coming, like rescuing this alien woman from some attack from these sort of really sort of. It seemed even then like a sort of setup.
Well, that was the one where a woman knew him when she comes off the
yeah. So and in this he shags her again. It's like, oh, what happened to your bird at home? Notice he didn't mention that in the last episode when she comes back into the picture. I was just like, do you want to tell us something? I think you should.
Well, I think he was just. I think he's one of those. I think he's a bit of a playboy, though. It's not really established that he's in a relationship with your one.
23rd century open relationship. Hi, Ted.
Must be. So yeah, we got this situation, and there seems to be like some kid that seems like it's a bit like the Dalai Lama or something. So they have to protect him for this ceremony that they need to do to protect the planet because he's going to connect the planet in some ceremony, and then his dad is with him, and it turns out that there's a plot to take him away from this and destroy the planet. So she's just like a zealot, and she's just like, oh, this is the best thing ever, and it's all religious, and it's amazing, it's beautiful. And then we get scenes with Benga and his daughter again. So he sort of brings her out of stasis occasionally to read a bedtime story.
Yeah.
So it's really nice sort of father and daughter situation there, which a good father figure. Wow. So he's trying to find a cure for her, and he's thinking that these people can, they said that they got advanced cures for everything because they live in this high technology society that's perfect, and they've eradicated all diseases and things. And so he's thinking he's going to get a cure, but they can't give it to him because he's not one of them. So he's kind of like, oh shit. The kid is like, he knows stuff, and anyway, all weird things happen, but it turns out that the kid is going to be basically plugged into this computer that's going to, so he gets kidnapped and they get him back, and then it turns out that, they've participated in a ceremony, a ritual that effectively will kill this child because he gets plugged into this computer which runs the entire world. And he will be absorbed into it, so just turned into a shell. Because they find out when they see like this shriveled up corpse of a child that's been replaced, the chosen one, the last chosen one, and it's a great honor for them. And he goes in like it's a great honor, but then he gets scared, and then like Pike's trying to stop it, and he can't stop it, and then the kid gets plugged in, and that's it. So as far as we're concerned, the kid's been killed by being absorbed into this machine. It's very intense, actually. I thought that was a really dark episode, and you can feel the horror and the guilt, and all this stuff plays in, and you couldn't only imagine like, he's trusted this woman. She's like a clearly religious nut, and she's betrayed his trust, but she doesn't understand. She doesn't see it that way. And she's like, you'll come to understand, this is one child suffering, instead of thousands or millions of kids living in poverty and dying in poverty. So like everyone benefits from this one child suffering, which is a gift and an honor for that child to sacrifice. And really, it goes into like the whole thing about consent and about choice and about moral. So again, moral question. And this is
it's a moral question. Yeah.
And it doesn't pull punches with this one.
No.
And it's really well done and really intense. And it's both horrific and amazing at the same time. So yeah.
Anybody else like that, Adam?
The designer of this show absolutely loves Star Trek, and the thing that gives it away is the set piece in the temple where they plug the child in is the agony chair from the TOS.
There you go.
I gotta look at that again. I did not notice that.
Actually, you will notice as well on the bridge. I've noticed this because a lot of fans are actually picking these things out. There's a lot of homages to the original series, and there's even some of the stuff that was in the original series that's on the actual original bridge as well. It's actually
subtle. It's subtle. It's not heavy-handed.
No,
it's not going, hey, member berries, and hey, look, homage. Ooh, look at us being
the
all.
design concept of the bridge is taking the original idea for the bridge in 1966 and how it would be made today, but sticking with the same basic concept. I think it's brilliant.
Beautiful. Yeah. It looks fantastic.
Unlike what we had in Abrams' Trek, where you had the lens flare white nightmare from hell in an industrial plant.
Yeah, horrible. That would be eye strain hell, wouldn't it?
Yep.
Working on that thing. Yeah.
Right, let's go on because I do want to devote at least 15 minutes to the series finale because that is worth actually talking about the series finale. Actually, the last few episodes in particular are actually very, very good. Some of the best Trek in years, in my opinion. But let's move on. So, where are we now? So,
you're at the Elysium Kingdom, I believe, episode 8.
No, this is the Serene Squall.
Right.
Oh yeah, no, we didn't talk about that
right,
one.
The Serene Squall and the Elysium Kingdom. So we start with you, Balls. Oh, sorry, I did it again, Chris.
You owe me a Jamaican beer.
I owe you 2 Jamaican beers now because I said it when you weren't here. So go ahead.
Oh,
there you go.
Yeah,
sorry, man.
Walking puppy.
I was doing so fucking well, man.
Space Pirates. Star Trek does Space Pirates in the
Space Pirates with a gay bloke in a cat suit.
Yeah.
Or Brian Mulcahy.
This is the one case where the female villain I thought was a little bit over the top. But other than that, I like these ship taking over concept stories again. Classic Trek. I believe this is also the one where we delve into the Chapel Spock relationship. And, as long as you don't go too far with that, because you can only go to that to a certain extent until, you're broken Kingdom. This is also how they're bringing Cybok back in. And again, I think this is when Cybok is first
he's in the mental institution, isn't he?
Yeah, he's but again, although Kirk and McCoy are not on the ship at this point, so it does kind of make sense that maybe at some point it comes into this timeline. But again, it's one of those things you got to be very careful because you got to keep that in line with the cinematic masterpiece that is Star Trek V.
It's probably one of the worst Trek movies ever made, but it still has its qualities. So I'm not going to look. It gets slated, that movie, but it has its moments, and they shouldn't have let William Shatner direct anyway. But
it's the best ego trip in history. I love the rock climbing scene at the beginning. No reason for it to be there other than
he
Shatner.
Just put it. Yeah, he wanted that there. Yeah. But look, we won't totally write it. But I agree with you. You have to be very careful with this. I have to be honest. When I did know who it was, I actually did get goosebumps. I will have to say. But again, there are certain things that the art. They're treading on water here and they just have to be careful. But so far, so good. Have you got anything else to add about the episode before we move on to the next
No,
person?
we still got a lot to cover, so I will shut up and yeah.
Right. So on comics, would you like to say something about that?
Yeah. If they never go back to Cybok, it will be just fine. And because, man, they can screw it up. But
Yeah.
I'm going to make a prediction at this point. Next season, about midway through, we're going to find out that Dr. Mabenga had an engineer help him with his transporter loop. And I think that's going to be young 30-something Scotty.
Well, we'll get to the we'll talk about it in a minute. But in the last episode, in particular, I actually agree with you on that theory. I think it is going to happen, and I will be ashamed to see him go. But you know, it's part of canon, so you have to disappear. Sorry, mate. But yeah,
he doesn't have to. He doesn't have to disappear right away because they do have time and they can. There's something really interesting they could do because obviously he gets demoted from chief medical officer at some point. I'm talking Mbenga, and he's still there under McCoy. I think they could do something really interesting with that. Why is he demoted? Why is he not chief medical officer by the time we get to a private little war?
Yeah, good point actually. Right, let's go on. Go ahead.
Where are we now?
We're at the Serene Squall and then the Elysium Kingdom. So if you want to say something about the Elysium Kingdom, go ahead.
I very much enjoyed seeing a father walk through a fairy tale with his daughter. That was very Star Trek. That was very very American, but it was also very clunky. They put this one together in scenes, and the transition from scene to scene got a little confusing. I thought for a short time that we saw Belle from Flux, but no, that was wrong. Fu, who is not the same actress. If anybody else saw her in this episode, that was wrong Fu. Let's see. I like the juxtaposition of the captain into a bumbling idiot. That was kind of, it was very humorous. There was lots of humor in the episode.
Yeah.
Yep.
Nurse Chapel was what? She was kind of a nature witch type of person, and it was interesting having all of the characters translated into characters from that story, and the champion of the king was half pint with the haircut. Really funny during the sword fights.
I think the thing I found most interesting about it is that they were actually opposite to their actual real characters. You know, every character that they were in the book, the fairy tale, was completely opposite to what their real character was like. You know, Captain Pike's character, he was completely the opposite.
Yeah.
Like he was a coward. He even betrayed. I have to be honest. The honest amount, right?
They were eating it up on that set.
They were having fun.
And the departure of the daughter was, man, that was heartbreaking.
Yep.
But I think again that sets up since we've seen her and she resembles her mother, I think we're going to meet her mother in the future.
Yeah, we probably could. Do any of you guys want to touch on it briefly before we get to the last two episodes there?
I haven't said anything about these two episodes.
Right, we'll go on because we're getting close.
All I'll say is that the non-binary character, he goes. How can you be? I just looked it up. Like the actor is non-binary but uses she/her pronouns. Isn't that pretty binary? I don't know. So if you're going to wear a cat suit, like a really tight cat suit, and you're going to climb up the Jeffrey tube, you might not want to have the cameraman there at that point. Like,
hey, it's fine with me.
Yeah, look, I like the character. I think it was quite a nice performance in terms of being one thing than the other. I think there's no allegory there at all. It was very flamboyant. Let's put it that way. It's very camp, which isn't a bad thing. You know, it's nice to have sort of flamboyant. I mean, chewed up the scenery like nobody's business. But it did come across as a bitchy gay man in a cat suit. That's how I see it. You know, the Elysium Kingdom, I think, was probably my favorite episode, just because it was so Star Trek and so ridiculous. And I you know, again, I did have problems with the captain being the character that's again, he played against type, which, you know, I give it its dues. But it did feel like, you know, let's target the captain and undermine him, you know, make him the cow. But, you know, fair enough. I love the story with Mbenga and his daughter in this, and the sort of conscious nebula that's, I don't know, all alone, and it's creating this fantasy. It's connected with his daughter because she's sort of atomized, and so is the nebulous cloud, and very science fiction trope going on there, and playing out all the fantasy stories that and working out, you know, as Mbenga's going through this thing, is the only one who's aware that, you know, this is going on. Everyone else is totally these new characters and playing all these crazy characters. It was really good fun. And it's only him and Hemmer who can see what it is, and Hemmer's like having to play the wizard, which is fantastic. And he realized, and Benga realizes, because his daughter didn't like the way the story ended, and that's why he's lost in the story, because he's like, well, that's not how it goes. And he realizes she's got to be the one controlling the story. It's, you know, and look, I'm sure many people watched this and instantly got that. I didn't. I was really quite engrossed and enjoying it. I mean, that's the thing. I was watching these. Remember, I was watching these episodes one after the other. I did this over 2 days. And I wasn't bored once. And that, for me, you know, I was engaged with it. I was interested in it. I was enjoying it. And it wasn't a drag. There was nothing filler about any of these episodes. And this one was so ridiculous and silly. And it was fun. And again, I think it was this episode that made me really like Sing. You know, she played this sort of spoiled princess, and she was fantastic. She was so over the top, and it was glorious. And I love that. You know, seeing the range of these actors in these new scenarios was quite enlightening. It was good, and it was heart wrenching when he let his daughter go, and then she came back as instantly as an older version who lived a life. Complete fantasy, but never mind. But again, it questions the nature of reality and all this kind of stuff. And she was happy and not in pain. It was such a touching scene. And Babs Ulusankun, if I'm not saying that right, was heart wrenching to watch, because his character was really, really going through so many ranges of emotions in that scene. You know, it's loss, it's happiness, it's sadness, it's grief, all of these things going on all at once.
Yeah,
and he underplayed that so beautifully. It's understated, and you know, it's all in his eyes and his voice, and it was a very touching scene. I'm sure she'll pop up again at some point, you know, as a Deus Ex, you know, but a valid one, because, you know, it's set, you know, that it's, you know, you can see her coming back at some point. And I thought she was I thought she would come back at the final episode, but she didn't. But anyway, yeah, that's where we're at.
Right, let's actually talk about the 2 final episodes because to me, I mean, this episode is great that they're at the being talking about. So if you say the last 3 episodes in particular, though, especially the last 2 for me, are probably some of the best Trek in years. So the 2 episodes are All Those Who Wander and A Quality of Mercy. And we will start with On Comics first.
The penultimate episode, when I watched it, I thought, oh, well, this is the finale. They wrapped up almost all of these stray plot lines. The arcs all come together, and Himmer gets to walk off the set. Singh at least has the impression that she's walking off the set, but she's back in the next episode. I thought that with the cadets coming to the end of their cadet rotation, this was also going to be a final episode for Uhura, but she's back in the next episode. So I'm not sure what they're going to dish us up in the next season, but all these arcs get nice endings with a pretty, not just a pretty bow, but a well-written bow as the episode ties up. Let's see. Is this also the one where we have the aliens?
Yeah, it was Aliens and Aliens 3 wrapped in one.
Yeah.
Really. Yeah.
So it was a real good adaptation of Aliens down to about 30 minutes. And I mean, they hit everything. If you sit down and write everything that happened in Alien, every one of those things happens.
Yeah,
Darren, very good, very well done. I thought.
Darren N says it perfectly. Aliens, Aliens 3 told in a single episode.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. The only thing that they were missing was some kind of a lava deck. But
you know what I liked about it? It had the tone of the Alien movie.
Yes.
It had that. It
was
that suspense.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It wasn't over the top. It was.
And it sounded like the Predator as well.
Yes. The visuals were when we see through the Gorn's eyes.
Yeah.
Definitely a Predator.
Very Predator. Yeah, that's true. Look, it was an unabashed, unashameful like homage to the Alien franchise. Did it work in the Star Trek? I think it did. Like I know it's over the top and it's so on the nose, but was it just being a rip-off? I don't think it was because it was too obvious not to, too obvious to be a rip-off, right? But it was interesting to see that kind of crossover. And I think if you're going to do the Gorn in a modern context, I think, well, I suppose,
it kind of works.
It's better than a rubber man in a suit,
If you think about doing the Cestus 3 story again, minus the uber powerful being, this is possibly a good way to introduce yourself into that vibe. But again, it makes the Gorn known, and they shouldn't be known. Blah blah blah.
I think as well. Yeah, going back to what you said earlier, like how do we see this this race of beings that kill each other for dominance, become a spacefaring race? It doesn't add up, does it? And
No.
Again, if you look at the canon with Kirk battling the Gorn, that's he wouldn't have stood a chance if this is what he would have been up against, really. So there has to be an explanation for that. So if they're going to attack, if this is how they are produced when they're young, but as they get older, they develop and settle into a you know, are more. I mean, they said they're intelligent, but I mean, this thing is just like a fucking monster rather than an intelligent being that's going to put together spacefaring vehicles and go off and do war. You know,
you have to have a culture and a society for that.
Yeah. So I mean, that needs explaining, right? They need to explain that. There's no way they can not explain that. If they don't explain that, they're letting themselves and us down. So they have to explain how the fuck we go from this marauding alien xenomorph type thing to a spacefaring. I mean, like, even the xenomorphs, you know, have a culture and stuff, but they prey on other people's technology, don't they, and convert that. I wouldn't say they sit there making spaceships all day. You know, that's something the xenomorphs don't do. So I can't understand how that works, and they're going to need to explain that. But yeah, that's. But it was a very sad ending to a very popular character.
Yeah,
that was hard going. The sacrifice he made, and he threw himself, like, that was beautifully done. But it was sad because he was a character that I think a lot of people were pinning hopes on. But he was quite a father figure in a way to Uhura. And her response to his death was well done as well. I think she maybe underplayed it a little bit.
the whole crew's reaction, even Spock's reaction when
notice the other cadets who, like, the fat white guy. He's dead. as soon as it was awarded, I was like, he's gonna die. And he died.
Yeah, but it wasn't done for cheap, like it's done in other shows. This, like, you know, when he died, you'd still had that impact. You were like, cheers.
At least it's the old red shirt thing going on there. So fair enough.
Anybody else got that? Yeah, go ahead. Sorry, Alan Thomas, go ahead.
Spock's reaction, the character moment he goes through throughout the episode.
Oh, his rage. Yeah, the rage.
Yeah, and he did. What does he do? He turns to Chapel.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that.
Written.
Yeah. Well written. Yeah. Chris, do you want to say anything about this episode before we get into the finale?
No, I went into it in a lot of detail last week, but no, I thought it was. I like these. I like creepy sci-fi horror. So
yeah,
and I always like the. I guess you could call it a trope. The original series where you have one of the Enterprise's sister ships that have been through hell, Doomsday Machine, Omega Glory, Tholian Web, where something catastrophic just happens, and I don't know, maybe it's my sick, twisted mind, but I always found those fun. I like disaster.
And bearing in mind, the Orville did something quite similar, didn't they? In their season 3, they did a very similar alien-esque.
Yeah, they did actually.
But this was done better.
Yeah, I agree.
Again, because they went for the man in the rubber suit, didn't they? And it didn't quite work. This was much more menacing.
Right. Well, I did say the last time we had the last time we did a stream on this show, that for me, you know, what would really cement this show is if the season finale was any use. And I said it had to deliver. And by God, did it deliver. Oh my, listen, the ending was just, it was everything that I thought it would be, and more. And, you know, I'm all excited now for the way it ended as well. I just can't wait for season 2. It was very, very well done. It's called A Quality of Mercy. So who wants to take this one first and get into
it? Out of the way. Okay. Yeah, this is back to the issue of fate.
Go ahead. You go ahead. I have to sort him out. He's gonna bark.
So it starts off with a visit from future Pike, doesn't it? Warning, because he wants to, because he's sort of facing the situation with my brain's gone. God, what's happening to me? I think it's the heat wave. I'm just like, really, really, but I'm sweating like a bastard. Help me out here. So what the situation is? They're in a predicament with because the kids that he's seen it when he's going to cark it, right? So he's at this.
Aware that the son of the commander of Outpost 3
Yeah,
to die in the future, and he wants to stop that from happening.
that's it. So yeah, he's kind of he sees that kid and he's like, oh shit, I can't handle this. So fucks off. And they're like, what's happening? You've seen one of the kids, haven't you, from your last moments? Well, not he's not dying, but he's disfigured for life, isn't he? So yeah, so he's going to go off and have a little lie down and think about how he's going to change things. Yeah. So then he goes into his quarters and then he's faced with his future self. He's got this time crystal thing. Fucking time crystals, honestly. Like modern science today, there's a lot to answer for, but it's given us some good science fiction, so I shouldn't complain. So yeah, so he's sort of shown, he's taken into the future on the Enterprise, and he's sort of shoved in a very awkward moment where he's presiding over a wedding. He's like, oh shit, who are these people? That was quite amusing. And then the alarms go off, so he's like, oh, thank God for that. And finds out that they are under attack. So yeah, he's in this sort of quite confusing situation. I'm losing my mind here, so it's really, really hard.
They're receiving a signal from the Romulan outfit.
That's it. Yeah. So you got it's a beautiful bird of prey.
Yeah, well designed.
So you've got shit going down, and he's got to try and change events.
Well, no, the thing about the episode is, though, right? This is why I like it. So he thinks, right, because he has his moral beliefs and stuff like that, and his Starfleet beliefs, right? So he wants to basically make peace with the Romulans, and the whole point of sending them back is to show them that actually this is the wrong decision. You literally you have to blow them out of the sky basically for none of this timeline to happen. And I was amazed by that. I was blown away by that because I was like, Jesus Christ, they're actually doing it. Like I wanted to see it from that. He actually has to he has to end this. He has to do what he doesn't want to do, you know, because he's Starfleet and he always wants to find a peaceful solution. And then you have Kirk then in his ear during the episode as well. It's
Jim Carrey Kirk. A weird choice, I have to say. I mean, he's supposed to be blonde for one. I think they chose that actor because they didn't want to overshadow Anson Mount. Like, you couldn't have two striking sort of, you know, good-looking, chisel-featured, you know, captains in one. He probably had it in his contract. I'm not having someone that's good-looking.
I actually didn't mind Kirk. I know you have a little bit of a problem with the actor.
It freaked me because when they revealed him, I thought, yeah, here we go. What are they going to do? They're going to de-age him? What? No, it's some guy that's a bit like Jim Carrey.
Yeah.
That's weird.
It
was good, but it wasn't Kirk. Yeah.
Although I guess Kirk isn't really going to be a main character in the show, and I hope he isn't a main character in the show. This is 7 years in the future. I don't know, but my preference would be just to leave Kirk out of it. But I really like the concept of this episode. It's like
very clever.
But again, the music cue when we see the Romulans for the second time this season. Dun, 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 dun,
yeah,
dun, dun. That's my attempt at
you get 3 of them through the episode.
Yeah.
Yeah, you felt a huge connection. Even the way the Romulans looked, even the way the bird of prey looked, was very, very in keeping with the original. And you can see that they are really, really trying to be as respectful.
And even replacing Stiles' role with Ortega, I thought it worked well. Because
the costumes as well, like Uhura's costume, and she even had the hoop earrings and the neckline, and you had, of course, we had the voice of Scotty.
yeah,
that was great. That was, I loved that. I did. I said, "Oh, there's Scotty. Are we going to see him?" But we didn't see him. We
And
just
no,
saw his
I
haircut,
think he'll
you know.
be there, but
Yeah.
they need to bring Scotty next season, but they need to. It's going to be tough casting Scotty
they're
where it's
gonna
Scotty,
bring
but
in-
it's not over the top.
They're going to bring in Scotty because obviously, was it Hammond?
Yeah, he's dead.
He's gone. So
Yeah, I didn't
obviously
see that coming.
Yeah.
No, I didn't see that coming in that last episode. That was sad, man. That I actually felt genuine emotion when he died. When was the last time we felt genuine emotion watching a Trek show? That's the thing. That's the thing. And this season finale, I'm telling you, the concept, the way it was written, it was just so clever, and it didn't disappoint. It didn't disappoint.
It was the ultimate slap in the face to STD because STD is so far removed from anything to do with the timeline that was supposed to come 10 years later. Here it is. Okay, we're going to recreate a classic episode, but do it differently, as if it were done today, but so many elements were there from the original story.
I think a lot of people critical of this series really use this finale as a sort of hammer to beat people over the head with, because they were kind of, I think, the outrage of daring to touch a classic episode in this way and kind of rewrite it.
Yeah.
I think, you know, look,
it's a tough one.
It's a prequel, whether you see it as canon or not. If you don't see it as canon, then it's not really a problem. But if you do see it as canon, then you gotta make allowances. You gotta delve into that, and it does relate to something that has happened already in the law, and you know you've got to address certain things. You know, it's better to do it visually and to show you rather than to use words. You know, again, people who are criticizing it keep saying you've got to show but don't tell. And here they are showing you, and they don't like it. So I don't know what.
That's what I mean. I said it off air. I'll say it on air. What do Star Trek fans actually want? I don't know what they want anymore. It's like same with Star Wars. I don't know what you want anymore. Like, one thing is the same respect canon. On one hand, is the same respect canon, and then on the other hand, like, you know, a show does try do that. You know, and it's not getting the credit where it should get. This series finale was great. I don't care what anybody says. I think
what a lot of us wanted was something that wasn't just give us something good. There are canon inconsistencies, but given that I'm still invested in this show, I'm willing to forgive it to a certain extent. Although I without going into detail, I can understand why people hate Star Wars right now, because I'm done with it after that recent show, which shall remain nameless. But I think with Star Trek, it's like in modern times, this is probably the closest you're going to get, and I'm amazed that we got this.
Yeah,
exactly.
I think we have to look at it that way, because if you look at what they have produced with the Trek name, it hasn't been anything like it. It's been it's not even like, it doesn't even come close to being anything like
it's been
the
shit.
original. Right, so it's been shit, but this is the first time that they've actually done a show that feels, acts, and fucking, you know, is written like a Trek fucking universe bleeding show.
It is fun. It has character. It has characters, actual written, well sort of fleshed out characters.
Yeah,
it's got very Star Trekky types of stories.
It has characters that surprise you that are not
fun.
what you thought they were.
Yeah, and it's fun. It's actually fun to watch. I can sit down and actually enjoy it. I'm not sitting there cutting away going, I roll. You know, I'm sure there are people who are invested deeply into the lore, and I get that, who are going that this isn't right, that's not right, this is not right. But I think at that
But
point.
it's at least their criticisms are genuine.
Yeah,
Yeah,
You know,
it's not
those
just
people that are bogged down in canon, I can get where they're coming from. I really do.
We've been there with Doctor Who, so we know exactly what they're going through. But the thing is, as well, that this isn't like current day Doctor Who, right? This is something that I'm hoping that RTD will make with whatever he's doing next. It's going to be like Strange New Worlds level territory. I'm hoping.
Yeah.
Right? That's the level I'm kind of expecting now, because this has set a precedent. So I don't know. But I think that, again, I said this before, you know, if you're looking at it, it's got to be in its own universe, fine, if whatever works for you. But if you're enjoying it, then you don't really need to make excuses for it.
No.
You just enjoy
it and go with it. Exactly. I mean, look,
make it its own thing if you have to.
If you think it's in an alternate universe, that's fine. But if you enjoy it. Don't let anybody tell you that because it is in an alternate universe that you shouldn't enjoy it. If you really truly enjoy it, just enjoy it. You know what I mean? You still have the original series anyway. I don't know you still have the original series is there. It'll never be altered. It'll never be touched, no matter what they do today.
Better, so that's fine.
Right? Even if you don't like it, you know, that's perfectly fine.
Yeah.
But I think to say that this is Discovery 2.0,
it's not.
It's objectively inaccurate because it's
night
on
and
the
day,
screen.
night and day. Listen, I will say, I'll reiterate, you know, two points I want to make here. The first one being, like, everything you see on the TV screen, I think we have to kind of view it as a sort of third wall kind of thing. Like it's an unreliable witness, so whatever we saw in 60s Star Trek would have been, you know, someone in the 1960s being projected in the future and perceiving it in that 1960s context. We're a 21st century audience looking at the same sort of story set before that, and we're looking in a 21st century vision. So so if you think about it in terms of, you think outside the box with that a little bit. But also the sort of second point is something I've forgotten. But I had no idea. I was going somewhere with that. I think ultimately it boils down to I remembered it. If we are being honest with ourselves, like if we just look at this objectively as a piece of TV, as a piece of entertainment, a piece of science fiction, and then look at it in terms of it being a Star Trek show. Look, it's got all the trappings of Star Trek without being superficial. They've shown that they are thinking about it.
Yeah.
And I think if they're making that amount of effort to correct the mistakes of the Kurtzman era Star Trek with, you know, toilet paper and
STD,
then this is night and day to that. And I think that we need, if you're not going to give them praise where it's due, if you're not going to get behind this even a little bit, or to give it a pat on the back somewhere along, if you don't show them that we appreciate, at least if nothing else, if we can show them that we appreciate they're making an effort, even if you don't like it, you think, well, at least they're trying. Let them know, because if you don't, they're going to go, what's the point? And then, you know, it's going to go to shit. You've got to kind of nudge them. We've complained, and now they've given us something, and then you're still complaining. You've got to give them something in feedback terms that is a positive. By all means, be critical, but be critical in terms of constructive, and show that, look, we appreciate your trying and that you're doing, and trust me, if the feedback is good for this, and I think it has been actually on generally, it's been well received. I think we'll get more of the goods if we keep telling them STD shit and stick to that and saying Strange New Worlds is good, at least good. I think it's great.
They'll keep it up. That's what I mean. They'll see what works. They'll see what the audience has liked. Right?
It's got to be a bit. You got to think in terms of Pavlov, right? The Pavlov. You give them a good response and give them a bad knock on the wrist when it's bad. This isn't bad. I'm sorry. I know some people are going to be out on this because they've been burnt once too often. They've got now a very entrenched, fixed view of how Star Trek should be and what isn't, and what is Star Trek. And I think you're in danger then of becoming a bit like an old granddad in terms of
And isolating yourself as well, though. I mean, look, at the end of the day, right?
Well, wasn't as good as it was in mind, and like no one wants to become that old fart. Look, it is the 21st century. It is 2022, and the fact we're getting something this level, this good, this well written, this well acted, in this day and age, we should be grateful because this is something that is on the right track. It's you can see this is a corrective measure, and we need to praise that. Because we need more of that. And if we don't give that, I'm afraid that they're going to sort of go, well, what's the point?
Well, they revert back to what they've been doing. Because they'd be like, well, if the fans don't care what we're doing, why should we care?
By all means, punish them to merciless hell over things like STD and toilet paper. But if you don't praise them when they're doing something right, even if it's not 100% what you like, even if it's not 100% Star Trek as you imagine it to be or want it to be or whatever, or if you still think it's breaking count, you're still going to say what's good about it and give that feedback and let them know that you at least appreciate that they're trying to do something right here.
Yeah.
And if you want to get rid of Kurtzman and friends, because they are not running, there's no way in hell they are running this show.
No,
exactly. If this show does well, you're fucking
send a message. This is what we want. The other stuff is trash.
Well, it'll put him under pressure, won't it? It'll put him under pressure, and that's what we need. We need him put under pressure, just like JJ has been recently called out. Like, these people need to be called out, right?
You show us how it's done. This is showing us how they can do it in the 21st century. Exactly. And if we don't praise it now, Kurtzman's going to be there forever.
Exactly.
And this is absolutely a huge embarrassment to Kurtzman. This is showing that if he's hands off, this is a success. STD is an abject failure. It's sending a clear message that guy is a fraud and that he needs to be ousted because he's no fucking good.
Exactly.
Support this show because then you'll get better Trek down the line. Even if it's not something you're 100% on board with now, this is the right direction at least. So at least if you support this, then you'll hopefully, if they see that this is well received by the fans, by the general audience, then we need to funnel that and support that, and it will lead you back, hopefully, to the Star Trek that you want.
Yeah. On comics and cultivated media, have you got anything to add about the series finale before I get you guys then to give me our overall rating for the whole season? But I agree with everything that Lee has had to say, though. This show, look, it's like when you plant a seed, right? And you see that first shoot, the shoots here, right?
You won't step on it going, it's not the plant I wanted. No, you've got to nurture it. You've got to
nurture it,
exactly. It and support it and put a stick into it. It gives it something to hold on, that kind of thing.
That's it.
Water it.
Right, lads, before we finish up, do you want to add anything else about the season finale?
Yeah, I'll say this. Go ahead.
Oh no, I was just gonna say, it's a step in the right direction. I love the callback. Again, like I said, every episode this season has been distancing itself from the previous two abominations. In this one, it's like this is a classic episode of Star Trek, largely, if it were done today. And and then out of nowhere, we have the cliffhanger, which I don't know. I don't think we touched on, but
no, the cliffhanger was actually very interesting because shit has just hit the fan, which means
it's alluded to, and at some point she's
it's been thought out. Well done,
wow. Exactly. It's like you worked it in, and then at the end you're like, oh, this is what's going to happen, and then the added dimension that it's Pike's girlfriend number, I don't know, 2, 3, whichever one this is. That has to arrest her, and it's and here's going to be the question next season, which I think is, once again, without bashing it on the head, but genetics or genetic engineering, I think is a relevant topic, given some of the not nice things going on in the world right now and the people possibly controlling it. I think it is going to be a valued question because I think we are going to see eugenics and genetic engineering at least attempted
My
the next decade.
main sort of criticism with this story is that they seem to sort of be nodding on the idea that it's a good thing. That might not necessarily be how it transpires as it goes along.
I don't necessarily agree with that. I don't think the argument is really that it's a good thing. It's just, this is how you are. This may not have been your fault. It's the same thing. They did it with Dr. Bashir.
Yeah, they
back
did it
in the 90s.
Yeah, but they also sorry.
Oh no, I was just gonna say, should he pay the price for the decision of his parents, or it's.
Well, I don't know, because with the pirate thing, when you had that Dr. Aspen talking to Spock about identity, I was like, oh, for fuck's sake, here we go. I'm just kind of worried that these things are going to sort of, how season 2s usually go, don't they? They go completely fucking full on woke. I'm just hoping that they are aware that this corrective measure shouldn't just be a bait and switch thing. I just hope that they don't go down that road. Like,
I love Pike's reaction. Says this is not over when they take her away,
and he looks into the camera. Oh fuck yeah!
Well, we don't have we don't have the numbers, but Paramount has the numbers. They know how many people were watching this and watched it all the way through versus how many people have tuned out of their previous abominations. So they have that. Paramount, this is their flagship franchise. And to see, they also have, not the critic score is bullshit, and I could care less about the critic score. But if you look at, say, the audience score, which for Strange New Worlds, last time I looked, was 80%. For Discovery, it's at 36%.
Yeah, but can I say something, Chris? Right? Yeah. Normally, I would agree with you with the critics, but I said this on Twitter, and I think it's a valid point to make. I think when a show is good when Rotten Tomato critics and the
I was actually mainly using it as a point of comparison for the other two series because they are closer in line with Discovery. But I just looked at Star Trek Picard. This is why. And
the critics can't. The critics can't panic because it's got a diverse crew.
Yeah,
right. But that's not the issue. Like the issue is that's never been the issue. The issue is that they've written good stories and the characters are great, and that's all anyone really wanted. And that's what we've been saying all the fucking long whilst being called racist, homophobes, bigots, and all the rest of it. It's like
pulled up Star Trek Picard, so this is why I don't trust critics. Average tomato meter, reviewers score 86%. Average audience score 40%. And I think even that's too high. And that's Picard. Whereas to see what Strange New Worlds is now, because more people would have watched it. Star Trek, Strange New Worlds, Rotten Tomatoes.
Right, well, I'm waiting on Chris to do that. You guys in the chat that have watched Strange New Worlds, out of 10 for the series as a whole, give it 10 being the highest, 1 obviously being the lowest. Rated out of 10, please, guys, if you can, in the chat. And I will be asking the panel in just a second. We'll just let Chris read out what he has to read out, and we'll get straight into the rating.
Okay, so I've just pulled out as of today. So Rotten Tomatoes just shows you how out of touch the critics are and how hated these shows are. I tweeted this yesterday, but Star Trek Discovery is obviously the same today. Tomato meter, 86%. Bullshit. Average audience score, 36%. That's still too high. Star Trek Picard, once again. Oh, what a surprise. The exact same reviewer, 86, 40%. Star Trek Strange New Worlds. Reviewers, 99%, which I think is still a bit too high because the show has some areas to improve, but the average audience score, 80%. So that's your indication right there.
That's a hit.
Yeah, but that's what I mean. Yeah. It's like if you see the differences that you've just called out from the critics to the audience, the critics are out of touch. But where they seem to be on level par here with this show. Now the critics might have a different reason, as Lee has pointed out, for liking the show, but it's actually quite unusual to see that the critics score and the audience score are almost similar, and they're basically both sides are on board. Do you get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
this is what most people wanted. They wanted something that, even if it's not a Star Trek, as a lot of people want it to be, at least you can acknowledge that the writing itself is a lot better. The performances are a lot better. The characters are fleshed out. The linking of character arcs and things that are relevant later on are all in place. Nothing is Deus Ex in this thing. It makes sense in its own universe, its own bubble, at least.
Yep.
You know, if nothing else, you can acknowledge that. And I think this is a nice marriage of giving everybody really a piece of what they want. You got the woke people who've got all the things that they want in it, and you got the general audience getting a fun, brightly colored science fiction show with all the pews and all the science fiction things that a lot of people like, and you got the Star Trek fans who are either on board or either not on board. But those who are on board are more likely to like this than they would Star Trek, Picard, and Discovery and all that.
You did make one point I just want to pull up real quickly, because you're absolutely spot on. But the color, right? What I've noticed about all the other Kurtzman Trek is they're quite dark. The colors are quite are quite bland. This is vibrant. It's vibrant. It's that's what I'm saying. I agree. This is completely not Kurtzman, man. This is.
Do you know what makes me smile every like? I didn't go through. I didn't fast forward through the opening titles.
No, I love the titles.
Love the titles. I love it's pure Enterprise porn. And it's glorious colors, and it's exciting. The music's great, and that lovely. The bit that makes you smile every time is that little at the end. With that little theremin. Oh, beautiful! And that's so 60s sci-fi right there. Love that. Love that.
Well, I think my final comment on this is, in 2017, had we gotten this in the form it is right now, like exactly the same, had we gotten this instead of Discovery, Star Trek would not now be considered a destroyed franchise. There were the canon issues and things like that people will argue about, but it's one thing to argue about canon and things like that, and
I'd rather argue about canon than wokery.
And anger and unpleasantness that is the other two shows, that they're uncomfortable and grating to watch. But this is this with some issues. This has what I guess I would call that Star Trek spirit that we haven't seen in 17 years.
I think the secret of this show lies in the fact that the crew look competent.
Mm-hmm.
There might be a few mouthy cunts who want to backtrack with the captain and all that, which is a bit. But ultimately, I would say that the crew are a coherent, gelled, coordinated group of people.
Yeah, and likable.
Likable. If you look at the crew for STD, it's like a fucking support group. They're all fucking incompetent. They're all overly emotional wrecks.
Weirdos.
They're all out of shape or weird and fucked up.
It's funny because if you look at the poster for season 1, at least you had Lorca, who at least looked like a lead. Season 2, you had Anson Mount kind of front and center. Followed by I don't know, the special class you'd have at school, and then season 3 with any charisma, anything interesting, completely gone. Like when they launched the original poster with their non-binary people and whatever that's when I stopped watching. But you look at that poster, it's like, Jesus Christ. It's a special needs class.
I think if you look at the characters, inverted commas, of STD, you don't know anything about them.
You don't care about them.
That's it. You don't care about them. You're not invested in them. They've got no personality. There's no charisma. They look like they either want to shag each other or fucking hate each other. They're all in their little clique groups. The gays all stick together. The blacks all stick together, and It's so weird and it's so unnatural. It just feels really staged,
Yeah.
and it's all about how great Michael Burnham is, and Ginger Fatty just eating cake and beating people in runs around the ship.
Right, with
I
that
haven't
said-
watched it, but apparently she's expanded a little bit this year.
Right, well, listen, Dad, let's not ruin this stream
Everyone's
talking about
crying all the time.
let's not ruin the stream by talking about that abomination. So
No,
what
but
I
it's
do-
important to kind of
I
say
agree.
this is
but-
why this works and that doesn't work. You know?
Right, so let's give it a rating as for the series overall. So Lee,
Kurt Merkin says that SDD isn't an ensemble cast. That was their first mistake. Absolutely correct.
Yeah. Well, not only that, not only was it not an ensemble cast, but you decided to center it all around the most. And I think most people would agree with this. Michael Burnham is the most pompous, unlikable character
She's a
ever
sociopath.
introduced to this franchise. Like
She's a
I
sociopath.
can't watch. Like even when I went back to watch Pike's first few episodes, I can't watch it. It's awful. She's horrible. And it has nothing to do with what demographics she represents, because we have those demographics on the new good Star Trek show. So it has nothing to do with that. If we
wouldn't want
like
that
we'd
representation.
Well,
all be
actually,
saying
that kind of
Uhura.
dispels that notion that people, it does, because you've made the point there exactly there. Like, there's diversity in Strange New Worlds, but is anybody complaining about the diversity in Strange New Worlds? No.
But that's the thing. This is like, if you look at the original Star Trek, that's exactly how it was anyway.
Exactly.
But this is how the future is. This is how the future will be, and this is how it should be. And no one has ever had a fucking problem with that. That's the thing. They tried to make it as though we would think that was a problem, and because they made these characters so fucking unlikable, they used it as a way to excuse their terrible writing and call us bigots and all the rest of it. When in fact, if you just did a really good show with great characters, great stories, we could love it. It was never about identity or groups or racial groups or gender or whatever. Never was a problem ever at all until they made it the problem. They made it an issue. Because they made it so unrelatable, and because you created a situation where people resented these characters, not because of who they, of their immutable characteristics, but because you write them to be complete cunts, and you make them look bad. You're not helping racial groups or oppressed groups, so to speak, if that's what you want to call people, which is a disgusting way of looking at people. Then you're doing a disservice, frankly, and it's disgusting and frankly racist and sexist, because you're making unrealistic representations on screen, which is completely antithetical to who people are. You're dehumanizing them to make them almost godlike and unimpeachable, and it's a rotten way to look at people, putting them on pedestals and fetishizing them, and then calling everyone racist for not liking it. It's disgusting. This doesn't make an issue out of any of it. It's a given, right? We just see these characters on screen and we accept them because they are good characters. They're there because they are the smartest and the best that Starfleet can produce, and they come across like that. They look competent, right? They don't have all these hang-ups and fucking flaws. They have flaws, but they're not also not written to be, unimpeachable as well. They have their character flaws, but they're well-developed flaws. They're human flaws, or in terms of if they're not a human, but doesn't matter. But what I'm saying is that they have relatable flaws, not I think it's so contrived. Everything's so contrived, and look at how highbrow we are, and it's just like, no, you just shit. And it's narcissistic. It was just self-immolation of the writers and that rubbish. But this is a whole different class. Right? As simple as that. You write people as developed people. We don't care what their skin color is or what's between their legs. Ultimately, are they interesting? Are they fun? Do I relate to them? Do they make me laugh? Do they make me cry? That's all I want to know.
Exactly. That's it.
I think it's also just before I head out, just to kind of expand on what Lee said. I think what they've done on STD and toilet paper
I
Actually,
love the way you call it toilet
before we
paper.
saw the actual episodes, I think it did a disservice to some of the actors and actresses on this show, because when we look at the cast photos, we're like, oh Christ, here we go again. And then you have characters like Lon and Ortegas, who I said at the beginning, I didn't like, but they both had character arcs. They both had character development. And I think they also drove that home even more in episode 10 when we see them 7 years later. It's like, or, they actually made Uhura likable again. I think Mbenga's a terrific character.
Yep.
But the problem is, because everybody had a hangover from the other two shows, they had preconceptions over what these characters would be. And I think it actually made it harder for them, because they had to, and I think they did very well by the end of the series, say, no, we're not like this. We're actual Star Trek characters.
Yeah, the best representation you can do is by making all the characters relatable and human, even the aliens. You've got to have that humanity in there. And, by making these unimpeachable characters who are beyond reproach is alienating people. And I don't think it does a service to anybody. I don't think that's representation or anything that should be classed as representation, because it's wholly unrealistic. It's wholly insulting to everyone's intelligence and to everyone's ability to look beyond gender and race and skin color and all these other really superficial elements. It's hyper focusing on superficiality, which is very representative of their mindset, which is superficial. This is not superficial. This is treating people with respect.
Yeah, not treating the audience like a bunch of...
Like they're idiots, exactly.
Like they're idiots. Like it does. Some of these episodes are really mind-boggling as well.
People who watch Star Trek, and things like Star Trek and deep science fiction and things like, they are smart, intelligent people.
Yeah.
When you have idiots writing for highly intelligent people, what do you think is going to happen?
Exactly.
They're going to go, you're a bunch of idiots.
Exactly. Right, let's get Chris to get his rating in before he has to leave, because we have gone over time. We did say 2 hours, but blame
I got to get back to work. But yeah, it's just the power of math. That's all I need to say. And poor Ethan Peck. I like science. You gotta feel one thing I want to say. You have to, talking about having something to overcome going into this. You think about poor Ethan Peck and how horribly he was written on the STD of things. Whereas, now we saw, actually it wasn't Peck all along. It was the way he was written, because he can actually do Spock, and he actually took. I
went into this absolutely hating his Spock. And by the end of it, absolutely fucking loving it. And he's clearly channeling, Spock.
He's also done the research. You could tell
he has. And he doesn't need to say it. We can see it on screen, because we can compare him in the other show. But I got to get going. But
your rating before you go, your rating out of 10 for the whole series as a whole.
Last week. I think with some tweaking, this could easily be a 9.5 show. It has the potential to be a 10, although that's very rare. I say right now it's still sitting at an 8 point. Last week I said between an 8.0 and an 8.5. Right now I'm gonna, after last week's episode, bring it up to 8.5, which is something I would never think I was rating a Star Trek show again. But this one, They can either completely drop the ball next year, or they can continue with this and augment it. And you need to go through the list of the 20 executive producers on this and figure out who's actually running the show. Probably who's ever the least idiot, but it's we don't know.
Well, whoever that least idiot is, they should promote that person. That's what I'm saying. Or if there's
they
two
need
of them,
to be showrunner.
They need to be showrunner, definitely.
Because I guarantee, and it's been rumored, and this is a rumor that I now believe, that after the complete debacle of STD, which I think because of contracts they're still locked into, toilet paper was finished long before I think even this show was just beginning to shoot. Executives saw what they'd done with toilet paper, and it was too late to go back and redo things, probably because poor Patrick Stewart will forget his name if they spend too much time working on this. But the rumor is they saw the absolute abomination, like a toilet paper season 2, which I have not finished and have no desire to finish, is an absolute goddamn disgrace. It's not even
I've never
trying
watched it.
to use allegory.
I've
They
never watched.
literally go back to modern year, and everything bad that they think is bad it's awful. So the rumor is that Paramount, right after the merger, or as this was going through, because A Strange New Worlds, as far as I know, was in early stages of filming, saw this and said, fuck this shit. And Kurtzman and Goldsman were allowed to keep their names on as executive producers, maybe still managing the money. But other than that, they've had, and you can kind of see in the initial casting and maybe a little bit in the first episode where they wanted to go with this and they were completely shut the fuck down. And they're like, no, we're actually going to make a good show.
I think Rabbi said it very well about Doctor Who, and I think we can apply it to Star Trek. This is the show that will find you out in terms of, the writers and such. You can't blag it. You can't just, I'll write generic sci-fi show. They'll never see the difference. Oh, it's fine. You can't do it half-assed. You can't even do it, three-quarters. You got to go all out on that, because it is a show that has a very loyal following. As I said, a very highly intelligent following. The best minds, very, very, almost savant levels of intellect watch things like Star. I'm not saying I'm one of them, but I'm saying a lot of, especially lore-heavy shows and cultural phenomena like Star Trek, Doctor Who, Lord of the Rings, all these things attracts a very deeply devotional fan base and highly intelligent fan base. And if you start trying to appeal to the lowest common denominator and then call that diversity, you're basically saying that you want to attract a thick audience because that's what you think diverse people actually are, which is highly, highly disgusting, frankly. It is racist and sexist and all the things that they claim not to be, because they are dumbing the thing down to make it more accessible to people who are more oppressed and don't understand things, which is highly insulting. I think
if you're an idiot and everybody responsible for those two shows is a fucking moron, and you're trying to write for a show that has always been like Star Wars was known as like the general person show, and Star Trek until current years was always the thinking man science fiction show. It was always it was written to be intellectual. And
although I think TNG was a bit too cerebral at points, it to the cost of fun. That's how I perceive it.
And
this is a balance, a nice balance. It's not as intelligent as I think it could be. I think it has a lot of intelligent elements in there, enough to keep me interested. That's the thing. I think it's not too dumbed down, but I think Strange New Worlds could afford to be even more clever. And
it had to find the balance. And I'm gonna stick out just to hear the rest of the ratings, but then I gotta run.
Cool. Right, Lee, give your rating.
8.5 out of 10.
Fantastic. And on comics.
Yeah, I'm going to say 8 out of 10 for the canon and plot problems that we mentioned earlier, and of course, the Mark I phaser should have been in this show. I keep coming back to this show. I keep looking forward to the next episode, and that is something I haven't done. And lastly, the captain, he held the final shot in the finale. He looked straight into the camera as if to say, my arc is over. I'm going to go do some captaining.
I'm going to kick some ass.
Yeah.
That's the thing. He is such a good captain. He listens to his crew. He delegates, but he takes charge when he has to. Like, he sent an away team and he's like, he didn't go down with them, which is something that most captains do in all the Star Trek shows. But he didn't. And he has faith in his crew. I think that was unusual, and I like that. He's a good captain.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well,
He's a
think
good
back,
captain.
that last shot ended with the arm across the harp. You could hear that stroke of those notes across the strings, just like back in the 60s.
Yeah. Well, I'm gonna give it an 8.5 out of 10. I'd probably give it a 9 if I was being honest.
Bear in mind,
but-
I watched this again. I'll just reiterate. I binge watched this in 2 days. Like I did most of it in one sitting, and I didn't get bored. And I was looking forward to each episode, and each episode was a good story. There was no filler in this
No.
entire season. It was packed with.
So this
stuff happening.
became my this show eventually became my Sunday morning tradition, and that's what my tradition was back in the 90s. Because when I was a teenager, I'm mainly DS9, but I would suffer Voyager. We'd get them where I lived. They'd air them Sunday evenings. So what I would do is I would tape them, and then that's what Saturday morning or whenever I got up, or Sunday morning whenever I got up, is I would watch Star Trek. This is the first time I've done that because this became once again my Sunday morning tradition, and I must go.
Yeah. Right. Channel
Bye,
shout out
Chris.
real quickly, our social media. So we'd start with you, Cultivated Media Incorporated. Go ahead.
Well, I just run a Twitter account. I'm retired from YouTube because it wasn't worth the unpleasantness anymore, but I do live streams. And tonight I'm going to watch the most ridiculous thing I've seen in a trailer. So look for that on Twitter, Baby Oopsie. I will link the trailer. This movie looks bad.
I have to see this trailer. I have to see it.
What's it
Right.
called? Baby.
It's called Baby Oopsie.
And what, is
Baby
it on
Oopsie.
Netflix or what?
I'm not sure. I picked up the Blu-ray. I think it's streaming somewhere.
I'll look it up. Okay.
Yeah, I'll see if I can find it for you, Lee, and if I find it, I'll
but
send it to you.
so yeah, I got to run because now
Right.
I'm really behind.
No problem. Yeah, I've got the
Right.
head as well. I'll have to have something to eat and bleeding. I've got to bring the dog out as well. So, Lee, go ahead.
I got a baby puppy that's screaming at me, so I got to go before I have a puddle mess.
Yeah, and Ted's been sitting at the window, so he's like, hurry up, will you, human?
All right. Cheers, all.
Bye.
Lee, next.
What?
Your social medias or whatever.
Oh, right, yeah. Well, you can find me on Instagram because Twitter's a cunt. Yeah, and my channel is Aldred, Audred, Aldred Audio Visual, and you can catch my work on there. Currently, I'm working on producing a First Doctor audio drama. So, I don't know when that's going to come out, but keep an eye out.
On comics?
I am on comics on YouTube and Twitter. I am right now coloring comics for Antarctic Press. That would be Jungle Comics, at least an issue of Planet Comics, and upcoming Ninja High School. And I am Lonnie Webb over at Truth and Rumble. So I will rant later this week on random things.
Fantastic. And you can catch me here as usual. We have a new Who next week. Actually, we have a double dose. We got one for members and we've got one for obviously everybody else on the channel. And we'll have other stuff. Shooty as well. There's a bit of Shooty news as well that I've been holding, so we'll talk about that as well. He received a doctorate, so he's now officially a doctor.
What?
I think they all get one now at this age. So yeah, so he got one.
I think if you're going to give doctorates to people, like give them to pensioners. Pensioners have earned them.
Yeah, in fairness, you have a point, but they give them to nearly everybody now that's on a major sci-fi show. It's nothing new now. But yeah, so catch me during the week anyway. You know where I am. I'm here. I'm right here. So, and I hope you have enjoyed some of the Irish videos that I've thrown up. They were on the old TARDIS Zone channel that I kind of forgot the passwords for and I'm locked out of it. But I had videos, but I was able to take those videos off the channel. And now I've been uploading some of them onto TARDIS Zone. So if you
Beautiful
haven't checked them out, please do check them out. And as I said, and what I will do is when this show, second season of this show is announced, I think it'll be only fair that we do an episode by episode review when this show actually does come out. Season 2 comes out, to do actual justice instead of doing it the way we did it today.
Rushing it through,
Because in fairness, there's so much to talk about that we didn't cover. You know that if we do,
we
it
haven't sold it very well, but look, trust us. You know,
it's worth watching.
It's worth watching.
It's worth watching. And with that, I'm going to say goodnight before everybody starts up again, because I'm going to starve. Like, you know what I mean? I'm actually literally wasting away here. Right?
Yeah, that's going to happen.
So I'm going to go. Say goodnight, panel.
Good night, panel.
Good night,
And
panel.
I want to thank all my guests that did come on. Obviously, Cultivated Media Incorporated. Thank you. Problem being on comics.
Right.
And we will be back again to talk about this show, because hopefully when season 2 pops around, when we get a trailer, that'll be the first time we'll be talking about it, and hopefully it'll give us something to get excited about. But if you haven't watched it, I would suggest that to give it a go. It's look, you know, as we have said on the panel, you know, it's absolutely not perfect.
Nope.
But if you're looking for Trek, right, you're not going to find it in Discovery, toilet paper, or even Lower Decks. Right?
I think if you're looking for
You'll find
perfection, you're always gonna feel let down, right? Look, I think you should set the bar at good stories, good characters, fun to watch, adventure, all the things that used to make Star Trek good.
Exactly.
They are all there.
Yes.
Whether or not the canon is where you want it to be or whatever. Look, I understand that, but at the same time, it's 2021, 2022. I can't say 2022. This is a miracle that this is even out.
Yes.
We need to let them know that we appreciate that they are at least trying to correct the ship. They are listening.
Yeah.
They are slowly but surely. They're coming to the realization that it's never been about race and identity and all these things. Look, we always accepted these things. We're not racist. We're not misogynist.
Yeah.
We just want good stories, good characters, and we got that in this. And I love them all. I love all the characters.
Diversity when we look at this. Well, okay, apart from the haircut.
The haircut needs to go.
Yeah, the haircut needs to go. But
at least just straighten that
I'm
line
going to leave it now before I get into any other conversation. We were supposed to leave an hour ago, right? I'm leaving now. I'm going to starve. I'm literally starving here, and they keep talking. So I'm going to go before they start up again. But thank you for... But thank you. But listen, thank you for all these joining us anyway. And I hope you have found this stream informative and interesting. And as we all have said on the panel, just go and check it out. You know, don't go in with any expectations. Trust me, I think that's the best way to actually go into this show. Go in with no expectations whatsoever, and you might find yourself enjoying it like Lee did.
Yeah.
And like I did. And like everybody else.
I went in with a little bit of low expectation because I had heard the mixed reviews. I had listened. But ultimately, as Noel says, you've got to watch it yourself. And that's what I did. And, I came away from it feeling absolutely pleased that I could watch something and enjoy it. And I'm enjoying this more than I've enjoyed the Orville so far. Right.
Good night, folks. We'll have a good one. Stay safe. Enjoy our week. A new week coming in now. And we'll talk to you during the week. Have a good one. See you later. Bye.
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 Yeah.